Chapter 5:12. On one side of the jade platform, King Lanling looked really handsome. He wore a purple robe and a purple gold crown on his head. He looked like a young emperor, and there was a cinnabar dot on his forehead which made him look really evil. He stood in the wind and snow with countless orchids falling around him. He was peerless, like the son of a god, attracting the admiration of many female cultivators present. Compared to Prince Lanling's handsomeness, Ningfan's attire was rather simple and plain. He wore a set of white robes and let his black hair hang loosely. His cold eyes were like an unfathomable deep pool. His white robes were stained with blood, and the stars between his eyebrows looked demonic, adding to his solemn killing intent. The domineering aura of the reckless devil condensed between his brows, and his aura was so powerful that ordinary cultivators found it hard to breathe. Many women also fell in love with him. King Lanling was the strongest person below the void fragmentation realm in the rain world. As for Ningfan, he was the strongest devil lord in the internal sea. If Ningfan does not use his void fragmentation realm jade slip and King Lanling uses his second primordial spirit to fight, who would win this battle? Perhaps Prince Lanling has a higher chance of winning. After all, his true body is the strongest expert below the void fragmentation realm in the rain world. The combat power of his second primordial spirit was extremely strong. How could Ningfan possibly resist it? One by one, the cultivators of the numerous sects didn't even dare to breathe, staring at the jade platform with rapt attention. Today, 11 void refinement realm experts had already died in Ningfan's hands. This matter would certainly shock the entire world. After witnessing Ningfan's terrifying means, who would still dare to have any designs on feng shui? Ningfan's eyes were as calm as an unfathomable abyss. Even though he had already killed Marquis Gui and he was sure to win the battle against King Lanling, he still felt a little uneasy. That uneasiness was as if they had missed out on some enemies, causing these enemies to still be plotting in the dark. Big Brother made a forceful move and suppressed the Ghost Eye clan, causing the 100+ sects who originally harbored evil intentions to be extremely fearful and afraid to act recklessly. I'm afraid that little sister Xueyan's tribulation today should be over. However, why do I still feel a little uneasy? Su Qiuling's brows were filled with worry. Just like Ningfan, she had also sensed a trace of strange atmosphere. Would Feng Xueyan's tribulation really end like this? What is Sister Yu doing? Su Qiuling was suddenly surprised. She took out a jade pendant that had a trace of Yu Lingkong's aura left on it. She could know Yu Lingkong's safety and whereabouts by relying on her aura. On the jade pendant, Yu Lingkong's aura seemed to have come out of seclusion. Has Big Sister Yu successfully broken through to the void inquiry stage? But if she has already come out from seclusion, why didn't she come and look for us? Where is she now? Su Qiuling was puzzled. On both ends of the jade platform, Ningfan and King Lanling were 10,000 zhang away from each other. King Lanling, on the other hand, had killed 11 void refinement realm experts in a row, including Marquis Gui, who was at the absolute void stage. His baleful qi was so strong that it nearly suffocated King Lanling. After just exchanging glances with Ningfan for a few breaths, King Lanling could no longer withstand Ningfan's aura force and took the initiative to attack. As soon as he took a step forward, sighs could be heard from all directions. Obviously, everyone could tell that King Lanling had lost to Ningfan in the battle of aura force. This scene did not seem to be what they had guessed earlier. Prince Lanling's handsome face was burning with pain, as if he had lost to Ningfan and suffered great humiliation. With just a single step, he had crossed a distance of 10,000 zhang and arrived at the other side of the jade platform. Then he raised his hand and pressed down on Ningfan's finger. His finger shone like a sword. Its destructive force was nearly equivalent to a void pierce stage attack. He wanted to defeat Ningfan in a single strike and redeem his reputation. You said that you don't need to use your void fragmentation realm jade slip to fight against me? I think you don't have any more jade slips. That's good too. If you don't have a void fragmentation realm jade slip, killing you is as easy as killing an ant for me. This is the void treading steps. Someone recognized King Lanling's escape technique. His speed was actually not any weaker than the void teleportation of ordinary void-pierce stage experts. White Orchid Sword Finger. There were also some who recognized King Lan Ling's finger technique. Few void inquiry stage experts could withstand the destructive force of his finger. Looking at the incoming finger and sword light, Ning Fan's eyes flashed with a hint of contempt. When Ning Fan first met King Lan Ling in the Six-Winged Clan, he still felt that this person was like a lofty mountain which he could not defeat. Now, when he looked at King Lan Ling again, he felt that this person was much weaker than him even though he was strong. In the eyes of countless people, the White Orchid Sword Finger that was as fast as lightning flashed with dazzling white light which was almost brighter than the sun. However, in Ning Fan's eyes, that sword light was so slow that it seemed to be stagnant. It was not that King Lan Ling had become weaker. Instead, it was because Ning Fan was no longer the same as before. Ning Fan turned his hand and pointed his finger. His attack was as fast as lightning. He displayed the heaven-breaking sword finger that he had not used for a long time. The mountains, rivers, and the void between heaven and earth began to crumble, turning the destructive force into the power of Ning Fan's finger. The first attack crumbled the mountains and rivers of the island. The second attack crumbled the black sun of the heavens. The third attack crumbled the undead bones of the void. In just an instant, Ning Fan displayed the first, second, and third attack of his sword finger consecutively. The first attack of the sword finger struck out at lightning speed. It happened to counteract King Lan Ling's White Orchid Sword Finger. King Lan Ling's expression changed. He did not expect that his White Orchid Sword Finger would be broken so easily. What followed next was the second attack of the sword light, which shocked him. He raised his hand and performed the second attack of the White Orchid Sword Finger, forcefully counteracting 50 to 60% of the power of the second attack. The remaining sword light landed on his chest, shattering all of his spirit equipment and treasure armor. He was forced to take tens of steps back. Before he could regain his balance, the third attack of the sword light attacked him like maggots in his bones, causing his back to break out in cold sweat. In the third attack of the sword light, he seemed to see countless undead bones of the void walking towards him. His flesh and blood actually began to decay slightly. Boom! The third attack of the sword finger hit King Lan Ling without any deviation. He coughed out a mouthful of blood and only managed to stabilize himself after retreating 1,000 steps. The orchids around his body dispersed, and only then did he manage to neutralize part of the force of the finger, preventing himself from being severely injured. However, his purple gold crown was shattered and his hair was scattered. The current King Lan Ling looked extremely disheveled. Even though he was not severely injured, his injuries were not light either. He no longer had the confidence he had before. How is this possible? Each of the cultivators of the 100-plus sects was inexplicably shocked. King Lan Ling had almost lost to Ning Fan after just one exchange of blows. With such a huge difference in strength, King Lan Ling actually dared to say that killing Ning Fan was as easy as pinching an ant to death. It was as if he had slapped his own mouth. I don't believe it. You are a Void Inquiry Stage expert and I am also a Void Inquiry Stage expert. How can I lose to you when we are at the same level? Heaven's Sacrificial Ruler. King Lan Ling took out a ruler and attacked Ning Fan with it. It was an ancient ruler that had existed for a long time. It looked like jade and gold but was not. Once it was wielded, it turned into 100,000 ruler shadows and struck at Ning Fan's head. Its aura was as powerful as the heavens and it could instantly kill an ordinary Void Inquiry Stage expert. That ancient ruler also possessed a void-grade divine ability which had the effect of bewitching one's mind. Countless chants of ancient scriptures resounded in Ning Fan's mind out of nowhere. Those innumerable ancient scriptures seemed to be bewitching Ning Fan to die for the sake of heaven and earth. As for the ancient ruler that was hanging high up in the sky, it suddenly dissipated and turned into the shadow of a massive halo. The halo emitted a trace of heavenly Tao's might. This is the legendary Heavenly Tao Halo. Ning Fan's eyes flashed. He recognized the origin of the ancient ruler. Inwardly, he already understood that this heaven sacrificial ruler was a magic treasure that contained heaven's might. It could borrow the power of the heavenly Tao halo to injure the enemy. The one who wields the ruler would punish the enemy on behalf of heaven. Those who defy the ruler would go against the heavenly Tao halo. If ordinary cultivators face the heaven sacrificial ruler, they would certainly be intimidated by the heaven's might. However, Ning Fan had never been afraid of heaven's might. To him, heaven and earth was just a cage. As for this cage, it could not trap him who was a foolly cultivator, a reckless devil cultivator, or a butterfly cultivator. Break! He suddenly raised his fist and threw a punch at the sky. Devil Chi billowed and heaven and earth were filled with the shadow of the devil dragon fist. In Ning Fan's hands, the twin dragon's void technique had actually reached the point of perfection without leaving any trace. As soon as he threw out his punch, the heavenly Tao halo suddenly shattered. 100,000 ruler shadows turned into ashes. Under the tremendous force, the entire cold northern country shook violently. With just the strength of a single punch, the heaven sacrificial ruler which possessed extraordinary power was actually reduced to ashes. King Lan Ling and the heaven sacrificial ruler cultivated together. At the moment when the ruler was destroyed, he coughed out blood again, dyeing his python robe red. He raised his head reluctantly. He could not believe that Ning Fan could withstand his attacks so calmly. Even if he was unwilling to admit it, he had to admit that Ning Fan's strength was far above his second primordial spirit. A trace of jealousy was born in his heart. It was just like how he was jealous of Yun Tianjue in the past. That jealousy and hatred eventually turned into the sharpest killing intent. He summoned a treasure armor that was infinitely close to the profound divine realm. Even though it was not as powerful as the heavenly ghost armor, it was much stronger than Ning Fan's primordial lightning armor. Thus, he was no longer afraid of any of Ning Fan's attacks. I, Lan Ling, am not a dharma treasure or a dharma spell, but my divine decree. A single orchid can contain all the splendor of the world in an instant. This is my Tao. The orchid is the Tao. To respect the orchid is to obtain the Tao. To abandon the orchid is to lose the Tao. The Tao should be like the orchid. King Lan Ling's aura force suddenly changed. Countless dark purple orchids fell from heaven and earth. One orchid, one life, one death. 7 orchids technique. King Lan Ling made a grabbing motion with his large hand. The countless orchids in heaven and earth suddenly condensed into 7 100 zhang large dark purple orchids. At the moment when the 7 orchids appeared, the high-level cultivators of the 100-plus sects revealed a look of terror. Every high-level cultivator in the 800 cultivation countries did not know how terrifying King Lan Ling's 7 orchids technique was. It was not a type of magic technique. To be more precise, it was a type of curse technique that was cast with the help of the spirit intent. If the orchid does not wither, the enemy will not die. If the orchid withers, the enemy will die. 1 life, 1 death. King Lan Ling raised his hand and pointed at a sword light. Then, a gigantic orchid in the sky was cut into pieces. All of a sudden, Ning Fan felt a sharp pain in his chest. He did not know why he was injured. While he was injured, King Lan Ling's injuries actually recovered a little. It was as if he had transferred his injuries to Ning Fan. 2 lives, 2 deaths. King Lan Ling sneered. He raised his finger like a sword and cut the second orchid into pieces. Ning Fan felt a sharp pain in his sea of consciousness. He took half a step back and his eyes flashed with a strange light. He could already tell that this so-called 7 orchids technique was a type of curse magic technique in the mortal world. Among the mortals, if they hated someone but could not take revenge, they would take their enemy's birth date and 8 characters and write them on a straw doll. Then they would prick it with needles. Those who knew how to use curse techniques could kill a person with 7 needles in 7 days. In the cultivation world, there were also curse techniques like the 7 Arrows book. Without a doubt, what this King Lan Ling was using must be a type of curse technique. It was rather sinister. He took a step forward and was about to attack. However, King Lan Ling was faster than him. He raised his hand and killed the 3rd orchid. 3 lives, 3 deaths. At the moment when the 3rd orchid was destroyed, Ning Fan felt a sharp pain in his dantian. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. However, when he raised his head and looked at the remaining 4 orchids, he was not enraged. Instead, his eyes were filled with contemplation. At the moment when King Lan Ling destroyed the 3rd orchid, Ning Fan seemed to have understood something. He recalled King Lan Ling's words, "Orchids are the great Tao. Respecting orchids is the way to gain Tao. Shedding orchids is the way to lose Tao." Originally, there was nothing to debate about these words. However, after witnessing the 7 orchids technique, Ning Fan suddenly realized that the 2 words shedding orchids sounded somewhat familiar. Shedding orchids are the great Tao. If the orchids are the great Tao, the Lan Ling sect would naturally respect orchids. The main point of this 7 orchids technique was to seize and plunder. It was to inflict one's own injuries on the enemy. It was to take away the enemy's life when the orchids were destroyed. As for the shedding orchids sect, it naturally belonged to the shedding orchids. All the main points of the technique were to give up first before obtaining. It was the opposite of the Lan Ling sect's principle, but it was also very similar. Ning Fan raised his head. His expression was still calm. If the 7 orchids were destroyed, even if he did not die, he would be severely injured. King Lan Ling was vicious, but Ning Fan was not a kind person either. How could he let him destroy all the orchids? Ning Fan's eyes flashed with a hint of cold light. He suddenly raised his hand and performed an ancient and profound hand seal. When King Lan Ling destroyed the 4th orchid, Ning Fan suddenly displayed a magic technique that he had obtained from his divine chests. Mutual death technique. 4 lives and 4 deaths. Lan Ling sneered. What he wanted to see was the scene of Ning Fan slowly dying. However, he did not expect that after destroying the 4th orchid, Ning Fan was already injured, but he, Lan Ling, did not recover from his injuries as he had expected. Instead, he was injured together with Ning Fan. A massive ancient formation diagram suddenly covered the 10,000 zhang tall jade platform. Countless orchids were engraved on the formation diagram. At the moment the formation diagram appeared, the orchids that were falling around King Lan Ling's body suddenly shattered for no reason. To his horror, he realized that his lifespan was rapidly decreasing. 1,000 years. Ning Fan uttered the 2 words coldly and performed a series of hand seals. A strand of white hair appeared on his temples. It was a sign that his lifespan was going to be shortened. As he performed the hand seals, Ning Fan's lifespan decreased by 1,000 years. As for King Lan Ling, he realized that his lifespan had actually decreased by 1,300 years. The magic technique of the shedding orchid sect. This is the mutual death technique. King Lan Ling's eyes were filled with surprise. He actually recognized the origin of this technique. Feeling terrified, he wanted to flee from the jade platform. How could he not flee? His 2nd primordial spirit had been cultivated in a very short time. He only had less than 4,000 years of lifespan. He did not dare to endure this kind of life-shortening magic technique that would exchange one's life for another. Even though he was wearing a half-step divine profound realm treasure armor, it could not defend against the mutual death technique. The profound cultivators of the 100+ sects, on the other hand, were at a loss. They did not know what the mutual death technique was at all, nor did they know how terrifying it was. However, when they saw King Lan Ling's terrified expression, they began to guess what kind of magic technique Ning Fan was using. In the Lan Ling sect, the Void Peer Stage Elder originally wanted to help King Lan Ling. However, when he saw the mutual death technique, the fear in his eyes was even greater than King Lan Ling's. King Lan Ling was just a 2nd primordial spirit. If he dies, then so be it. However, he was a living human being. He was a Void Peer Stage old monster who did not have much time left in his lifespan. He only had less than 2,500 years left. How would he dare to face Ning Fan's mutual death technique head-on? Do you want to leave? Freeze. Ning Fan pointed at Lan Ling with the back of his hand and froze her in place again. 2,000 years. This time, he sacrificed a total of 2,000 years of his lifespan. King Lan Ling's entire body was in excruciating pain. After losing 2,700 years of his lifespan, all of his black hair had turned white. His originally handsome face had turned into that of an old man. As he was too old, it was hard for him to mobilize his magic power. At this moment, King Lan Ling was filled with fear. He used the 7 orchids technique to plot against Ning Fan, but Ning Fan used the mutual death technique to plot against him instead. Madman! This man is a madman. Even the Void Refinement Realm old monsters in the history of the Shedding Orchid sect were not willing to sacrifice 3,000 years of their lifespan. I've lost 4,000 years of my lifespan, and my second primordial spirit has become so old that it can no longer fight. This man has sacrificed 3,000 years of his lifespan. Why does he only have a few more strands of white hair? He doesn't look old at all. This man, how many years of lifespan does he actually have? Ning Fan casually plucked a few strands of white hair from his temples. To him who had 110,000 years of lifespan, losing 3,000 years of his lifespan was just a small matter. He approached King Lan Ling step by step. His killing intent was fully revealed. He had already dispelled the heaven-sealing finger. However, King Lan Ling was lying limply on the jade platform, unable to move. He was already at the end of his lifespan and did not have the strength to resist Ning Fan. "Zhou Ming, how dare you hurt my lord?" That Void Peer stage elder only dared to scold Ning Fan, but he did not dare to step forward at all. Not only was he afraid of Ning Fan's Void Fragmentation Realm Jade Slip, but he was even more afraid of Ning Fan's mutual death technique. Under his scolding, only a few hundred cultivators of the Lan Ling sect who were hot-headed rushed to the jade platform, intending to protect King Lan Ling. Before these cultivators could get close to Ning Fan, they were swept away by his sword sense. All of them died, their blood splattered on the jade platform. King Lan Ling raised his aged eyes and looked at Ning Fan. He felt as if Ning Fan had become an undefeatable devil lord at this moment. "Don't ever provoke me. This time, it's your second primordial spirit that died. If there's a next time, it will be your true body that dies." Qi Ning Fan raised his hand and stomped on the ground, turning King Lan Ling's aged second primordial spirit into a pile of flesh. The 7 orchids technique also collapsed on its own. Before King Lan Ling's second primordial spirit died, its eyes were filled with fear and resentment. However, after hearing Ning Fan's threat, it could not bring itself to take revenge at all. With Ning Fan's means, if he kills his way into the Lan Ling sect, would his true body who was in seclusion to recuperate be able to withstand a Void Fragmentation Realm attack? Mutual death technique. Sect Master has lost. All the members of the Lan Ling sect were filled with fear. They really wanted to know if Ning Fan would kill them, the remnants of the Lan Ling sect. Each of the cultivators of the 100+ sects was immersed in shock. This shock was only because Ning Fan had killed King Lan Ling's second primordial spirit without using the Void Fragmentation Realm Jade Slip. Ning Fan, who was at the Void Inquiry stage, could already kill King Lan Ling and Marquis Yuge. If this young man grows stronger, who could afford to offend him? Perhaps even Void Fragmentation Realm old monsters would not be willing to offend this young man. It seems like it's meaningless for us to stay in the Giant Devil clan. With Zhou Ming here, no one can take Feng Shuiyan away. Su Qiuling's frown remained unchanged. Will Feng Shuiyan's tribulation really end so easily? Why did her heart beat even faster? As a matter of fact, Ning Fan also realized that after he killed King Lan Ling, the uneasiness and fear in his heart suddenly increased. His divination technique was not profound. Thus, he could not predict the reason for his uneasiness. However, he knew that an unforeseen event was about to happen. That was why he did not annihilate the Lan Ling sect at once. Just as he was deep in thought, a huge crack suddenly appeared in the snowy sky. The Pill Island, which was floating in the vast sky, was actually shattered into 2 halves by the crack that suddenly appeared. Countless cultivators of the Pill Island turned into rays of traveling light and flew down from the Pill Island on their magic treasures. The sky was filled with huge rocks that fell from the Pill Island when it was destroyed. What is that? Countless cultivators raised their heads to look at the sky. A gigantic blood-red tree suddenly emerged from the crack in the sky. It seemed like some kind of flower was growing on the tree, but it had yet to bear fruits. Below the blood-red tree, 6 layers of blood seas suddenly appeared. In the territory of the northern Liang province, 8 gigantic devil pillars suddenly rose from the ground. One of the devil pillars happened to be located at the seats of the Lan Ling sect. The devil pillar pierced out from the ground and directly killed nearly 10,000 low-grade cultivators of the Lan Ling sect. The blood essence of the dead cultivators all rose into the sky and went into the 6 layers of blood seas. As for some cultivators of the 100-plus sects who were closer to the devil pillars, their bodies exploded without any warning. Their blood spilled in the wind and snow. As for some cultivators of the giant devil clan, even though they were far away from the devil pillars, their bodies also exploded without any warning. The scene was extremely terrifying. Who is so bold to kill the cultivators of our 100-plus sects at will? Each of the Void Refinement Realm old monsters turned to look at Ning Fan. It seemed like they suspected that Ning Fan was the one who killed them. However, none of them dared to question him because they were afraid of Ning Fan's ferocious might. Ning Fan felt helpless. As long as someone kills the innocent, others will suspect him? Of course, he did not need to explain anything because 8 Void Refinement Realm experts had already appeared under the 6 layers of blood seas. They were undoubtedly the culprits of this incident. Besides, Ning Fan also realized that the uneasiness in his heart became even stronger after the 8 ancestors showed up. Did I miss them? Ning Fan's eyes flashed with cold light. 8 old ancestors, what's going on? Zhu Qing looked at the 8 ancestors in disbelief. Aren't the 8 old ancestors plotting something big and unwilling to show themselves? Then why did they attack again? Besides, since they attacked, it's fine to kill the cultivators of the 100-plus sections. But why do they also want to kill the cultivators of the giant devil clan? It's nothing. It's just some blood sacrifices. Of course, the biggest sacrifice is none other than Feng Xuan. King Zhu Lu smiled coldly. All of a sudden he pointed his finger downward from tens of thousands of zhang away. All of a sudden, the false Mo Luo blood in Feng Xuan's body began to burn, causing her to let out a heart-wrenching scream. Ah! Zhu Qing could not believe what he was seeing. The 8 old ancestors actually attacked Feng Xuan. What made Zhu Qing even more incredulous was King Zhu Lu's increasingly cold words. Activate the boundless sea of sin formation. Everyone here will become blood sacrifices until the progenitor tree blossoms. What? Countless members of the giant devil clan could not believe their eyes. These 8 Void Refinement Realm experts who appeared out of nowhere actually wanted to sacrifice everyone here. Some of the members of the giant devil clan who had seen the portraits of their ancestors before could vaguely recognize that these 8 Void Refinement Realm experts were the 8 ancestors of the giant devil clan. How could they believe that their 8 ancestors would kill their own people? Sea of Sin open. The 8 devil pillars and the 6 layers of the Sea of Blood gave off layers of formation light, sealing off heaven and earth and trapping everyone within it. Within the formation light, the cultivators whose cultivation bases were not strong began to turn into pus and blood and die. Countless cultivators of hundreds of sects attacked the formation light. However, even if all the Void Refinement Realm cultivators of the sects joined forces, they still could not break the formation light. Ning Fan stood in front of Feng Xuan to protect her. He kept pointing his finger at her, but he could not extinguish the flames of the devil blood in her body. His eyes were filled with anxiety. If he allows the devil blood to continue burning, Feng Xuan would be burned to ashes in just 1 hour. He wanted to save her. However, in the end, he realized that even if he had the Mo Luo ancestral talisman, he could not get rid of the hidden danger of Feng Xuan's devil blood in just 1 hour. He actually could not save her. Why? Father, how can you bear to treat Xuan like this? How could you treat our giant devil clan like this? Zhu Qing's cry of grief and indignation was not directed at King Zhu Lu and the others. Instead, it was directed at Zhu Yan. Zhu Yan closed his eyes in disappointment. He did not explain anything. For the continuation of the clan, he really had no choice but to sacrifice the descendants of his clan. Feng Xuan's body was trembling. That trembling made Ning Fan feel powerless and furious. He had eliminated the Ghost Eye clan and Lan Ling clan. He had wiped out all of his enemies. However, the ones who hurt Feng Xuan the most were her family members. Perhaps the heartache Feng Xuan was feeling right now was even more painful than the devil blood burning her body. 8 ancestors of the giant devil clan, die for me. The surface of Ning Fan's fist was covered with golden purple wind and mist. He threw a punch at the boundless evil sea formation. With just a single punch, the entire boundless evil sea formation that no one could break began to erode. What? Countless cultivators of the sects were shocked. The ones who found it the most unbelievable were the 8 ancestors of the giant devil clan. That punch contained Ning Fan's understanding of samsara. That punch contained Ning Fan's obsession and determination. Without stopping, he dashed towards the other 7 ancestors. He raised his hand and took out the 5th Void Fragmentation Realm Jade Slip and crushed it. All of a sudden, a Void Fragmentation Realm attack whizzed out. It did not attack the other 7 ancestors but the ancestral tree above the sky instead. Ning Fan did not know how to save Feng Xuan. However, after the battle with old ancestor Bai Tong, he had already sensed that there was something strange about that ancestral tree. He must destroy it immediately. Perhaps he could save Feng Xuan by destroying the ancestral tree. Perhaps he could not. However, he wanted to try. For a moment, all 6 ancestors except King Ju Lu were shocked and enraged. Zhou Ming, how dare you attack the ancestral tree and ruin the great plan of our giant devil clan? We will make you die without a burial place. King Ju Lu was the only one who seemed to have expected that Ning Fan would destroy the ancestral tree. He sneered and took out a jade slip which also contained a void fragmentation realm attack. 2 giant shadows appeared in the sky one after another. One of them turned into a giant devil while the other turned into Lan Jiao. Each of them displayed a void fragmentation realm attack. As they clashed, heaven and earth crumbled. However, the ancestral tree was not destroyed at all. Zhou Ming, you are not the only one who possesses a void fragmentation realm jade slip. You are still too inexperienced if you want to destroy the ancestral tree and become my enemy. Just as King Ju Lu was talking nonsense, a burst of presumptuous laughter that had not been heard for a long time resounded from below the ancestral tree. Little cucumber, don't worry. If you want to chop down the tree, I will help you. I can chop down this tree in no time at all. Yu Lingkong's sudden appearance under the ancestral tree was beyond everyone's expectation. She raised her hand and waved a moon blade, slashing at the roots of the ancestral tree. All of a sudden, King Ju Lu roared furiously, which he had never done before. No! Chapter 5:13. Yu Lingkong waved her moonblade complacently. As the moonlight flashed, the progenitor tree trembled and gave birth to countless bloody mists. Amidst the bloody mist, the progenitor tree seemed to snap and collapse with a loud rumble. Her sudden arrival was a huge variable that King Ju Lu did not expect. In the eyes of the giant demon clan's 6th ancestor, the progenitor tree was the best way to break the slave marks of the giant demon clan. However, King Ju Lu was the only one who understood that the ancestral tree was his hope to break through to the void fragmentation realm. This was a demonic tree left behind by the giant demon progenitor. King Ju Lu deceived the other 7 ancestors. He planted the ancestral tree with his blood, nurtured the tree with a formation and attached his life to the tree. In the end, he sacrificed Feng Xuan to the ancestral tree and used his devil blood to form a fruit. With the fruit of the ancestral tree, he broke through to the void fragmentation realm. However, all these wishes seemed to have vanished the moment the progenitor tree fell. King Ju Lu's chest was filled with rage, and he almost wanted to kill Yu Lingkong. However, at the moment he looked at the progenitor tree, he seemed to have noticed something, and he revealed a cold smile. The progenitor tree didn't fall. King Giant Deer discovered this fact. As for Yu Lingkong, she heaved a sigh of relief. In fact, she had already broken through to the void inquiry stage a long time ago. It was just that she concealed her heavenly tribulation and hid in the dark, thinking that she could act at the critical moment to help Feng Xuan. Little cucumber, I've already knocked down this broken tree. She excitedly wanted to ask Ning Fan for the credit, but she saw Ning Fan's gloomy expression. Using his 8 wings at full speed, he hurriedly flew to the front of her, grabbed her slender waist and immediately retreated. It was as if there was a fiendish demon in the crack between the heavens and the earth. He had to escape immediately, or there would be endless troubles in the future. Yu Lingkong didn't understand what was going on. Before she could react, she saw the blood mist in the crack in the sky suddenly dissipate, revealing the progenitor tree that had clearly been chopped down, but it was still standing upright. Being cut down just now was just an illusion created by the blood mist. Yu Lingkong felt greatly humiliated. She, a human, was actually deceived by a tree? This was too embarrassing. While he was thinking about these idiotic questions, he suddenly felt uncomfortable. His face suddenly turned pale, and a feeling of weakness surged through his body. Only now did she notice to her shock that 1/10 of the blood essence in her body had actually been lost for no reason. Shockingly, it had been swallowed by the blood mist. The progenitor tree had cast an illusion technique to pretend that it had been chopped down, lowering her guard while secretly absorbing her blood essence. This was a demonic tree that sucked human blood. If Ning Fan had been half a step slower in saving her, even if she did not die under the ancestral tree, she would have suffered severe injuries due to the loss of her blood essence. Don't be so reckless next time. That tree is a bit scary. Don't get close to it. Ning Fan's words carried a harsh tone. However, Yu Lingkong could hear the concern in his words. Naturally, she was in a good mood. After swallowing a healing pill, Yu Lingkong cursed without a care for her image. Motherfucker! How dare a desolate tree suck my blood essence? This is infuriating, but speaking of which, this tree is really hard, even harder than Little Cucumber's cucumber. My crescent blade didn't even scratch its skin. This tree is indeed very hard, and this tree is very dangerous. Ning Fan's frown deepened. Just now, when he was heading towards the tree, he actually felt a sense of death from the ancestral tree. Even if he escaped into the profound Yin world, he wouldn't be able to avoid that sense of danger. Perhaps the scariness of this ancestral tree was far beyond Ning Fan's imagination. Perhaps even the void fragmentation realm jade slips he used previously could not destroy it in one go. After Ning Fan destroyed the boundless evil sea formation with his fist, the group of cultivators finally escaped death. Each and every one of the cultivators who had survived the calamity looked at Ning Fan with eyes filled with respect as well as a hint of complicated gratitude. If it wasn't for Ning Fan who destroyed the Grand Formation, all the cultivators of the 100+ sects would have turned into blood and died in the formation without knowing why. Even though they were not slow in escaping, the low-level disciples of each sect had also suffered heavy losses. Adding up the 100+ sects, at least 300,000 low-level disciples had turned into blood and died. How hateful! The cultivators of the 100+ sects originally came to snatch the wind snow words and the slate. However, they did not expect to fall into the trap of the 8 ancestors of the giant devil clan and were almost sacrificed to them. However, if it wasn't because they were blinded by greed and came to the giant devil clan to stir up trouble, how could so many of their disciples have died? They indeed deserved it. Everyone's resentment was transferred to the 7 ancestors of the giant devil clan. They must settle the score with him. The Chongshu elder of the Lanling sect, Zheng He, the master of the Yang Heaven Palace of the Rain Palace, Marquis Shenzhen of the Ice Mountain Sword sect, Fairy Miao Yi of the Wonderful Sound Valley, Zen Master Shen Kong of the Profound Sky Temple, the Master of the Six Flames sect, the Master of the Nirvana Valley. These remaining 7 Void Refinement Realm cultivators were going to demand an explanation from the 7 ancestors of the Giant Devil Clan. Isn't this the previous patriarch of the Giant Demon Clan, King Zhu? He wants to use the cultivators of 100 sects as sacrifices. What a good plan. It's a pity that we didn't die. I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. Marquis Divine Sword furiously slashed at Monarch Giant Deer. Disappointed? Why should I be disappointed? I was worried that the progenitor tree was injured, but now that I see that the progenitor tree is safe and sound, I can finally relax. My grand plan will not be destroyed, and I will not be disappointed. The flowers of the ancestral tree are about to bloom. All of you must die here today to pave the way for me to break through to the void fragmentation realm. Break my clan's slave mark? Ridiculous. How could the progenitor tree have the ability to break slave marks? Moreover, why would this old man painstakingly scheme for the sake of some clansmen? Every man for himself, and heaven and earth destroy him. This tree is planted by this old man only to break through to the void fragmentation realm, not to save anyone. The time has come. No one can stop my plan. King Ju-Lu sneered. He floated towards Monarch Giant Deer's sword, allowing Monarch Giant Deer to slash him into a mist of blood. Marquis Divine Sword was stunned. He did not expect that he could kill Monarch Giant Deer with a single strike. After all, Monarch Giant Deer's cultivation level was higher than his by a small realm. However, at the next moment, Marquis Divine Sword was shocked to discover that under the ancestral tree in the crack in the sky, a mist of blood suddenly condensed and formed the appearance of Monarch Giant Deer. Monarch Giant Deer could actually be reborn after death. This greatly exceeded Marquis Divine Sword's expectation. It seemed like as long as the ancestral tree was not destroyed, no matter how many times Monarch Giant Deer died, he would always be reborn under the tree. This was the undying devil tree that was left behind by the progenitor of the giant devil clan. Monarch Giant Deer sneered. The blossoming of the ancestral tree had already reached the final stage. No one could stop him from breaking through to the void fragmentation realm. He revealed the original plan in his mind. The 6 old ancestors, including Ju Yen, were stunned and found it hard to believe. Old Ancestor Giant Deer, what did you say? You said that this ancestral tree does not have the ability to break slave marks of my clan? Is this true? You said that we sacrificed ourselves, countless members of our clan, and even Shuayan just to let you break through to the void fragmentation realm. Is this true? The few old ancestors of the giant devil clan questioned. Of course, what I said is true. All of you are just being used by me. Now, all of you no longer have any value to me. You can't escape death. I will let all of you die knowing the reason for your many years of hard work. All of you are just my chess pieces. That's all. Monarch Giant Deer smiled sinisterly. Old Ancestor Ju Yan's eyes were filled with boundless anger. The same anger also appeared in the eyes of the other old ancestors. They had always thought that everything they did was for the sake of their clan. They always thought that what they did was noble and great. However, it was only now that they sadly realized that everything they did was actually being used by someone else. They had actually become someone else's stepping stone. Who would be willing to accept this? Especially Ju Yen. After all, he was Feng Shuiyan's grandfather. He had always thought that sacrificing Feng Shuiyan was for the prosperity of the clan. Now, it seemed like the biggest mistake he had made in his life was hurting Shuiyan. Moreover, he would never be able to make up for it. He looked at Feng Shuiyan, who was below him. Feng Shuiyan was still being burned by the devil blood, and she was unconscious due to the pain. For a moment, guilt and sorrow filled his heart. Ju Yen closed his eyes in agony. As her grandfather, he actually wanted to send Feng Shuiyan to her death with his own hands. And all of this was just because he was being used by someone else. How stupid! Ju Yen, you are so stupid. Giant Deer. This old man and you won't stop until one of us is dead. Ju Yen seemed to be filled with guilt, madness, and anger, but he could no longer vent his anger. He turned into a ray of traveling light and dashed towards the ancestral tree, swearing to kill Monarch Giant Deer. However, he could not make up for the guilt in his heart. Seeing Ju Yan's attack, Monarch Giant Deer sneered cruelly. Marquis Shenjian and the other Void Refinement Realm experts were stunned. They did not expect that the 7 ancestors of the Giant Devil clan would have an internal conflict. However, after being stunned for a while, Marquis Shenjian and the others decided to watch from the sidelines. Ning Fan did not rush towards the ancestral tree. He did not intend to watch from the sidelines either. He sensed an unprecedented dangerous qi from the ancestral tree. As soon as he sensed something unusual about the ancestral tree, Ning Fan was alarmed. He grabbed Yu Lingkong and flew backwards. Before Yu Lingkong could ask him what happened, a great change suddenly occurred in heaven and earth. On the ancestral tree, the first blood-red rose gently trembled. At the moment when the first rose trembled, the ancestral tree suddenly shot out a vine that was as thick as a bowl. It pierced through Zhu Yan's armor at an unbelievable speed and penetrated his dantian. The destructive force of a casual stab from the bloody tree was already close to that of a void fragmentation realm attack. Zhu Yan let out a muffled groan. His dantian had already been destroyed. He used all of his strength to swing his sword at the vine, but he could not damage it at all. The vine suddenly dragged him to the front of the ancestral tree. At this moment, a huge ferocious mouth suddenly appeared on the body of the ancestral tree. It was filled with sharp teeth. When it opened its mouth, it swallowed Zhu Yan into the ancestral tree and chewed him to pieces. Zhu Yan, a dignified void pierce stage expert, was actually devoured by the ancestral tree. As for his flesh and blood, it turned into nourishment for the ancestral tree. After devouring Zhu Yan, the first blood rose blossomed completely. Its petals were as red as blood. The first one. King Zhu Lu licked his lips with a sinister smile. Marquis Shenzhen and the other Void Refinement Realm experts turned pale with fright. What exactly was the origin of that ancestral tree? It actually killed a Void Pierce stage expert with just a vine. Yu Lingkong began to feel scared. If she was not saved by Ning Fan in time, she would have ended up like Zhu Yan. After the first blood rose blossomed, a whiff of evil fragrance was emitted. Wherever the fragrance spread, many cultivators turned into pus and died. This evil fragrance was much scarier than the formation light of the Sea of Sin. The ancestral tree even pulled out 1 million vines and pierced them at the Void Refinement Realm experts of the 100-plus sects, including Marquis Shenzhen and the remaining 5 old ancestors of the Giant Devil clan. Judging from King Zhu Lu's actions, he actually wanted to borrow the power of the ancestral tree to kill the Void Refinement Realm experts first. Countless low-grade cultivators of the 100-plus sects were immediately killed or injured. Countless magic treasures bombarded the vines, but none of them could hurt the vines of the ancestral tree. The 5 old ancestors of the Giant Devil clan were greatly shocked. They turned around and fled immediately. The 5 of them were just Void Inquiry stage experts. Their cultivation levels were lower than Zhu Yan's. How could they resist the ancestral tree? They were filled with regret. They hated themselves for trusting King Zhu Lu so easily. They hated themselves for hurting their clansmen. However, it was already too late. The 5 vines caught up to the 5 old ancestors as if they had teleported. They easily pierced their dantians and bound them tightly. When the vines retracted, the 5 old ancestors of the Giant Devil clan were swallowed into the huge mouth of the ancestral tree and died. The ancestral tree continuously bloomed 5 blood rose blossoms. There are 6 of them now. King Zhu Lu said excitedly. The vines pierced the Void Pierce stage elder of the Lan Ling sect, nearly scaring him to death. His scalp went numb. Without hesitation, he grabbed the sect master of the 6 Flames sect and the Yang Heaven Palace Lord in front of him and threw them towards the vines, using them as meat shields. After 2 miserable shrieks, the sect master of the 6 Flames sect and the Yang Heaven Palace Lord were pierced to death by the vines respectively. Their corpses were then dragged back to the ancestral tree. With the help of the 2 meat shields, the elder of the Lan Ling sect desperately tried to escape. However, a vine pierced through him from the side. The lives of the 3 Void Refinement Realm experts added 3 more blood rose blossoms to the ancestral tree. There are 9 of them now. The 4 vines pierced towards Marquis Shenzhen, Fairy Miao Yi, Abbot Shenkong and the Master of the Nirvana Valley respectively. The 4 of them no longer dared to flee. They knew that if they did, they would die even faster. The only thing they could do was to resist with all their might. Void Sword Technique, Heavenly Light Swaying. Sound Transformation Technique. Devil Subduing Seal. Nirvana Fist. The 4 of them each unleashed their strongest attacks. However, their strongest attacks were not much stronger than Yu Lingkong's Moonblades. How could they hurt the vines? The vines remained unscathed and pierced into the dantians of the 4 Void Refinement Realm experts. 4 blood-curdling screams resounded. The 4 of them died and became food for the ancestral tree. On the ancestral tree, 3 more blood rose blossoms bloomed. The 4th one had yet to bloom. Once it does, the ancestral tree could only produce 12 blood rose blossoms. Everything happened in an instant. In just an instant, all the Void Refinement Realm experts were killed. If it wasn't because Ning Fan retreated quickly, it would be difficult for him and Yu Lingkong to resist the vines of the ancestral tree. At this moment, all the Void Refinement Realm experts and the other ancestors of the giant devil clan were dead. King Julu's gaze finally shifted to Ning Fan and said with a cold smile, 12 blossoms. It seems like the blood rose has already bloomed to its limit. The number is already sufficient. Next, there's only one last step left. By watering the ancestral tree with Feng Shuan's blood, the 12 blood rose blossoms will bear ancestral devil fruits. As long as I consume these 12 ancestral devil fruits, I will certainly be able to break through to the Void Fragmentation Realm in one go. Zhou Ming, oh Zhou Ming. Do you know that this ancestral tree is a devil tree left behind by the ancestors of my clan? Once it blossoms, even a Void Fragmentation Realm Jade Slip would find it difficult to damage it. Only a true Void Fragmentation Realm expert can destroy this tree. Are you a Void Fragmentation Realm expert? You will never be able to destroy this tree and you will never be able to protect Feng Shuayan. If you want to destroy the ancestral tree, you will need a miracle. Unless you instantly transform into a Void Fragmentation Realm expert. However, you know that there are no miracles in this world. King Julu's smile became even more sinister. He suddenly formed a hand seal and the vines of the ancestral tree trembled again. Cat this moment, countless vines aimed at Feng Shuan at the same time and pierced towards her. After killing Feng Shuan, they would also slaughter all the cultivators in this place. Each of the cultivators of the 100+ sects and the 7 venerated beings were filled with despair. Just like what King Julu had said, this ancestral tree was too terrifying. Only Void Fragmentation Realm experts could suppress it. However, where were the Void Fragmentation Realm experts? Who could save them? There were no miracles in this world anyway. Ning Fan already knew how terrifying the ancestral tree was. If these vines pierced down, even if Feng Shuayan was protected by Su Yen and the others, she would not be able to escape death. He did not care how many cultivators of the 100+ sects would die. Feng Shuan was the only one who should not die in this conspiracy. He suddenly let go of Yu Lingkong and soared into the sky alone, facing the thorns of the vines that blotted out the sky. He was just like the butterfly that rushed towards immortal Emperor Zhang Qing resolutely in the past. I'll give you a miracle. His mind sank into the yin-yang locket and connected with Luo Yu's mind. With great tacit understanding, Luo Yu slowly transferred her magic power into Ning Fan's body through the yin-yang locket. Ning Fan did not even need to ask for it. Ning Fan closed his eyes. His aura force suddenly rose in an instant. Mid-Reckless Devil Realm, Late Reckless Devil Realm, Peak Reckless Devil Realm, Revered Devil Realm. All of a sudden, he turned into a giant revered devil realm that was 10,000 zhang tall. He had 2 horns on his head, 8 wings on his back and ghost eyes on his brows. He stood in heaven and earth with an imposing aura force that could crush the world. This was a revered devil, an existence that could defeat all Void Fragmentation Realm experts at the same level as him. The giant waved his hand and the power of the ancestral talisman spread out. The vines that were powerful enough to kill a Void Refinement Realm expert collapsed one after another. All the cultivators were stunned. Each of the low-grade cultivators was suppressed by the giant revered Devil Realm's aura force. All of them prostrated themselves on the ground. They could not even stand straight. However, the moment the revered Devil Realm appeared, the entire heaven and earth trembled as if they were afraid of the return of an revered Devil Realm devil. The aura force of an revered Devil Realm devil nearly suffocated King Julu. He could not believe the scene in front of him even if he dies. Ning Fan had really turned into a void fragmentation realm cultivator in an instant. How could he believe that Ning Fan's body could give out a void fragmentation realm aura force at this moment? He tried to resist Ning Fan's aura force. However, in just an instant, he was shaken by Ning Fan's aura force, causing blood to flow out of his mouth and nose. He was severely injured and on the verge of death. What kind of terrifying devil blood was this? The grade of this devil blood was so high that it was not something that King Ju Lu could imagine. Impossible! I don't believe it. This is fake. King Ju Lu roared. Revered devil. The giant wore a pained expression. It was as if he could not control this power that did not belong to him, and the backlash was extremely severe. However, his eyes were filled with determination. No matter what methods he had to use, he had to protect his obsession. If his obsession is destroyed, heaven and earth would be buried together with him. Punish. Bao. The giant's essence chi was earth-shattering. With a wave of his hand, he condensed a huge black gold bow. The power of mountains and rivers flowed into the huge bow while the power of the stars condensed into an arrow. When the arrow was aimed at King Ju Lu and the ancestral tree, even the tree itself began to tremble. Zhou Ming, stop. King Ju Lu screamed crazily. He could never understand why Ning Fan could actually obtain the power of a void fragmentation realm expert in an instant. Die. The giant's tone was still cold as he suddenly drew his bow. Mountains and rivers began to collapse as wind and snow swept through the sky. The bow was drawn and the arrow was released. The entire endless sea was shaking violently. King Ju Lu looked at the arrow light and felt that there was no longer any chance of survival. All of their plans would go up in smoke under this arrow. This old man started cultivating the evil Tao at the age of 7, vein opening at the age of 11, harmonious spirit at the age of 19, core formation at 100 years, spirit severing at 1,000 years, and void refinement at another 1,000 years. But void fragmentation realm is hard to ascend to heaven. I risked everything just for the void fragmentation realm. In the end, it was all for naught. Perhaps the cultivation of Tao is a futile struggle. No matter how high one's cultivation base is, one will eventually die one day. However, this old man has been painstakingly planning to break through to the void fragmentation realm as soon as the progenitor tree bears a fruit. This old man is unwilling to give up. I can't accept this. Boom. The arrow landed with a boom, as if the sky was falling. King Ju Lu and his ambition vanished into thin air. The indestructible progenitor tree also withered under the star-punishing arrow. Ning Fan could no longer withstand Luo Yu's magic power. He returned to his human form and stared at the withered progenitor tree in silence. At the moment the progenitor tree withered, Feng Xuan had already stopped burning her devil blood. Is it finally over? The surviving cultivators of 100 sects, more than 10 or 12, each of the cultivators who were lucky enough to not die, looked at Ning Fan's eyes. All of them were incredible and shocked. This Zhou Ming has really destroyed the progenitor tree. Countless sects in the 800 cultivation countries were in chaos because the life tablets of their disciples were shattered. What was most terrifying was that 9 out of 10 void refinement realm sects that had participated in the muddy waters of the giant devil clan had lost their void refinement realm cultivators. Other than the martial ancestor realm, the profound sound valley, the Six Flames sect, and the other sects were all shocked. Even the Rain Sovereign was shocked by this. The 800 cultivation countries had lost 9 void refinement realm experts in just one night. This did not include King Lanling's second primordial spirit. Countless divine transformation realm cultivators had died. What exactly happened in the Endless Sea? Why do you sects have to go to that troublesome place for no reason? In the Rain Palace of the Middle State, the Rain Sovereign sat on his jade throne and roared at the deputy sect masters of the 100-plus sects below him. This is great. The vitality of the Rain world has been greatly damaged. This matter must be thoroughly investigated. This time, the Rain Sovereign was truly enraged. Ning Fan's face turned pale. He thought to himself that he might not be able to use his magic power recklessly for a few months. Under the withered progenitor tree, Ning Fan suddenly turned his head in alarm. He saw a lady in red robes standing behind him out of nowhere. "It's you? What are you doing here?" Ning Fan was surprised. It was Hong Yi whom he had met once on the Thunder Bamboo Island. According to Ning Fan's guess, this lady's true identity was probably the Thunder Sovereign. "I have a way to save the progenitor tree. It has already bloomed 12 blood roses. As long as you water it with Feng Shuiyan's blood, you will be able to obtain the fruits of the progenitor tree. Do you want to try to kill Feng Shuiyan and break through to the void fragmentation realm?" Hong Yi teased. "You want me to kill my sister to prove my Tao?" Ning Fan shook his head with a bitter smile. If it is someone else who had nothing to do with him, Ning Fan would definitely be ruthless enough to use their blood to nourish the ancestral tree and break through to the void fragmentation realm in one go. However, if it was Feng Shuiyan, he would definitely not agree to it. "I will use my own method to break through to the void fragmentation realm. I won't kill her." "That's a wise choice. Even if you kill Feng Shuiyan, this tree will not bear fruit. It will only bloom. King Julu's dream of attaining the void fragmentation realm will never come true. Many people spend their entire lives, but they don't know that the flower they hope to bloom will never bear fruit. This tree doesn't bear fruit?" Ning Fan was slightly surprised. Then he stroked the 12 blood roses on the ancestral tree. These blood roses were exchanged with the lives of void refinement realm cultivators. None of them had withered yet. Upon closer inspection, these blood myrtles were all male flowers. How could a male flower bear fruit? Only female flowers bear fruit, don't they? Fortunately, King Julu did not check on the blood cress. If he did, he would probably die from anger. The void fragmentation realm that he was pursuing was just like daydreaming. Or perhaps, it was just like what King Julu had said. The path of cultivation was originally a feudal struggle. "You didn't come to me just to talk about these topics, did you? What exactly do you want to talk about? Have you forgotten that you still have a deal with me?" Hong Yi's blood-red eyes flashed with cold light. If Ning Fan really forgets what he promised her, she might just kill him on the spot. Ning Fan felt extremely helpless. How could he dare to forget the promise he made with the Thunder Sovereign? This woman changed her attitude way too fast. A feeling of weakness suddenly filled Ning Fan's entire body. He almost fainted. "From the looks of it, I really need to lie on the bed for some time." Chapter 5:14. Hong Yi left with a cold expression. It was unknown what she was thinking. She came and went in a hurry. Ning Fan stared at the escaping light in Hong Yi's robes that was disappearing into the distance, and his eyes were filled with contemplation. Hong Yi's arrival was probably not because she was bored enough to chat with Ning Fan. Why did this woman come to the Giant Devil clan? She should have long known about King Julu's conspiracy. The reason why she came here was probably because she wanted to intervene in the affairs of the Giant Devil clan and help Feng Shuiyan. Or perhaps she was here for the fruit of the progenitor tree. Ning Fan sat tiredly under the withered ancestral tree. His body was aching as if it was being pricked by needles and burned by fire. He could not muster any of his magic power at all. According to his estimation, even if he borrowed the power of Black Star to heal himself, it would take him at least 4 months to be in a state of serious injury and unable to mobilize any magical power. This was the price of borrowing Luo Yu's magical power. If he didn't have the Starlight healing technique, he wouldn't be able to recover from this injury without at least 100 years. Inside the Giant Demon clan, there were countless surviving cultivators cheering. There were also countless cultivators who were filled with grief because their loved ones had died in this battle. Su Yen, Yu Lingkong, Ming Ke, and Fen Qi rushed to the foot of the ancestral tree and stood in front of Ning Fan to protect him. Looking at Hong Yi's fleeing light, all of them felt their hearts palpitating. They did not know who Hong Yi was. All they knew was that Hong Yi's strength was rather terrifying. Moreover, she suddenly appeared and left without staying for too long. She also did not show any hostility towards Ning Fan. Thus, she should be a friend and not an enemy. "Your injuries are very serious." Su Qiuling supported Feng Shuiyan and flew to Ning Fan's side. When she noticed Ning Fan's serious injuries, she felt heartbroken. Feng Shuiyan was no longer in danger. She regained consciousness and flew into the sky with Su Qiuling's help. When she saw the injuries all over Ning Fan's body because of her, she felt a lump in her throat and burst into tears. "Don't cry, it's just a small injury. Everything has passed." Ning Fan patted Feng Shuiyan's head and comforted her with a gentle smile. "Yes, everything was over. Whether it's the 8 ancestors of the Giant Devil clan, the Ghost Eye clan, or the Lan Ling sect, none of them will have any designs on you." The impact of the battle with the Giant Devil clan was too great. The Rain Sovereign was enraged and sent out 4 experts of the Rain Palace to investigate the matter. Among the 4 powerhouses, the first to rush over was actually the dragon-determining Valley Master, Chu Chang. Chu Chang's attitude towards Ning Fan was still considered polite. However, he was a little surprised by Ning Fan's speed of growth. The last time Ning Fan went to the Dragon Extinction Valley, he was still a mere divine transformation realm cultivator. Today, however, he had become a reckless devil realm expert whose strength was comparable to a void inquiry stage expert. Moreover, he even had many terrifying trump cards to protect himself. In this battle, Ning Fan had exposed too many of his trump cards. He even borrowed Luo Yu's power to transform into a revered devil lord. Too many people saw this scene, and the venerable devil's aura shook the entire Endless Sea. Unless he kills all the devil cultivators in the Endless Sea to silence them, he would not be able to conceal the aura of the revered Devil King. Alright, his trump card was helplessly exposed. As for Ning Fan's reputation, it instantly spread across the entire Rain world after Chu Chang's investigation. An ancient devil cultivator, a 6th revolution pill master with a void fragmentation realm jade slip that could instantly transform into a void fragmentation realm giant that could crush everything. Ning Fan was not afraid of exposing his trump card. By exposing the void fragmentation realm jade slip, it seemed like it would only increase the respect and reverence the others had for him. Even though his identity as an ancient devil was exposed, he did not reveal the grade of his devil blood. Who would know that he was a terrifying ancestral devil with ancestral blood? The only problem was how to explain the sudden eruption of void fragmentation realm strength. Ning Fan would not be foolish enough to expose Luo Yu's existence. Therefore, when Chu Chang asked Ning Fan how he could instantly erupt with void fragmentation realm strength, Ning Fan's answer was, "I found an unknown 7th revolution pill in some ancient ruins. After consuming it, one can instantly gain void fragmentation realm strength. There's no other pill like that." Chu Chang had also heard of a few types of pills that could allow a cultivator to instantly gain void fragmentation realm strength. Thus, he believed Ning Fan's explanation. After investigating Ning Fan's trump card, Chu Chang investigated the whole story of the battle against the Giant Devil clan. This time, even though there were many casualties among the 100+ sects, most of them were killed by King Ju Lu and the Ancestral Tree. Ning Fan only killed those cultivators who provoked Feng Shuiyan in the beginning. He did not need to be responsible for the casualties of the 100+ sections. In the eyes of the world, it was the 100+ sects who coerced the Giant Devil clan because of greed. King Ju Lu, on the other hand, turned the tables and sacrificed countless cultivators. It was basically a dog-eat-dog situation. How many people of the 100+ sects died? What does it have to do with Ning Fan? Moreover, if Ning Fan did not eliminate King Ju Lu, none of the cultivators of the 100+ sects would have survived. All of them would have died in King Ju Lu's hands. Ning Fan did not need to be responsible for the casualties at all. He was innocent and meritorious. The other 3 experts of the Rain Palace who were in charge of investigating the matter rushed to the scene. All of them were Void Refinement Realm experts of the Rain Palace. Their investigation results were the same as Chu Chang's. They left one after another to report to the Rain Sovereign. After Chu Chang and the others left, Ning Fan's life returned to peace. As he borrowed Luo Yu's power, the backlash he suffered was too severe. He could not use his magic power for 4 months. He could not concoct pills, open his storage pouch and enter the profound Yin world or the Yuan Yao world. Even his sea of consciousness was greatly damaged. He could only use an extremely weak trace of spirit sense. He stood under the eaves of his house and raised his head to look at the wind and snow of the cold northern country. All of a sudden he felt a little tired. Cultivating the Tao is very tiring. I don't know how many more people I have to kill in the future. I don't know when I will die without an intact corpse due to a moment of carelessness. Ning Fan could not forget the 12 blood myrtles on the ancestral tree. Who would have thought that King Ju Lu would kill 12 Void Refinement Realm experts in a row with the ancestral tree? Who could predict the death of tomorrow? Cultivators with great abilities have the heavenly sense which allows them to seek fortune and avoid calamity. However, if they just try to avoid and hide, they won't be able to escape the calamity in the end. If I had been a little careless at that time, I might have been killed by King Ju Lu and turned into one of the blood myrtles on the ancestral tree. On the path of cultivation, one must not take even half a wrong step. A single misstep may cause everlasting sorrow. When I look back, 100 years have passed. Ning Fan stretched his hand out of the eaves. Soon, his palm was covered with a thin layer of snowflakes which melted instantly. Even though the snow here was similar to the snow in 7 Apricot City, they were still different. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with longing. He missed his home. He wanted to return to Yu country and his hometown as soon as possible. Now that there were no more enemies in the Endless Sea, he probably could really leave. However, even if he wants to go back, he should first heal his injuries. Currently, he was extremely weak and could not use any magic power. His physical body was severely damaged and he was as weak as a mortal. It had been many years since he experienced such a feeling of weakness. Ning Fan, who was in an injured state, was extremely weak. He was tightly protected by his women. There were Void Refinement Realm spiritual puppets guarding outside the courtyard. His women were living in the four corners of the courtyard to protect him at all times. Unfortunately, with such a tight defense, some people could still come and go as they please. In his mind, Luo Yu suddenly teased Ning Fan. That Void Fragmentation Realm woman is here to look for you again. I really can't tell that my younger brother Ning Fan has such great charm. As soon as Luo Yu's voice fell, a woman in red robes with a cold expression appeared beside Ning Fan. Ning Fan smiled bitterly. The amount of spirit sense he could use at the moment was limited. He could not sense anyone approaching him at all. However, he did not need to look to know who the person beside him was. Other than Hong Yi, who else could it be? Inside the Black Lightning Tower, Ning Fan found some dark lightning bamboo leaves to help Hong Yi heal her injuries. After some healing, Hong Yi's cultivation base actually recovered to the first heavenly layer of the Void Fragmentation Realm. What a terrifying woman! Hong Yi's arrival naturally alarmed Yu Lingkong and the other women. However, Ning Fan gently waved his hand to indicate that he was fine. The women in your family treat you well. With them protecting you, I don't have to worry about your safety. Miss Hong Yi is worried about my safety? Even though Ning Fan knew that Hong Yi was the Thunder Sovereign, he did not say it out loud to avoid exposing her identity. Of course. You are still useful to me. Of course, I will care about your life and death. Hong Yi said coldly. I have promised you that I will help you with a small matter. However, I have yet to ask you what exactly do you need my help with? Ning Fan asked curiously. You don't have to ask too much. Take this item and quickly heal your injuries. Then, we will talk about the important matter. You are too weak now. You are of no use to me at all. Hong Yi glared at Ning Fan in disdain. Then, she took a step forward and disappeared without a trace. Obviously, she had already left. Ning Fan shook his head and chuckled. He actually got despised by Thunder Sovereign Buzhou. However, when he lowered his head and saw the items that Hong Yi gave him, his eyes could not help but widen in surprise. Hong Yi had given him 2 blood-red jade boxes. The first jade box actually contained a low-grade 7th Revolution Life returning pill. The second jade box contained a silver jade token which was emitting a strong lightning power. This is the Thunder Jade token? Ning Fan had seen the Dong Su Realm's Thunder Jade token before. Thus, he naturally recognized its origin. The Thunder Jade token only had one use, and that was to enter the sovereign tomb. According to common sense, only cultivators could obtain the Thunder Jade token by participating in the arena battles held by the Zhou clan in person. However, since Ning Fan already knew Hong Yi, why would he need to participate in the arena battles? According to the agreement between Ning Fan and Hong Yi would only need his help after many years. However, since Hong Yi gave the token to Ning Fan at this moment, she probably changed her plan. As for the fact that the dignified Thunder Sovereign Bu Zhou actually gave Ning Fan a 7th revolution pill to heal his injuries, Ning Fan felt flattered. Of course, he would not think that Hong Yi was interested in him. Hong Yi was not an ordinary woman. The fact that Hong Yi would give him such a precious pill could only mean that she valued Ning Fan a lot. Moreover, it was based on the relationship between the two of them. That was enough. With my current condition, it's not suitable for me to consume a 7th revolution pill. After my injuries recover a little, I will consume this pill. I will certainly be able to fully recover in one go. Before that, let me take a look at this Jade token first. Ning Fan carefully studied the Thunder Jade token and realized that it was not an ordinary Jade token. Instead, it was the most precious bestowment Jade token. Not only did the bestowment Jade token have the same effect as ordinary Jade tokens, but it also contained a trace of bestowment magic power that was bestowed by the Thunder Sovereign. If one refines this power, one's cultivation base would improve significantly. For example, the 7 venerated beings of the Internal Sea, including old ancestor Dong Su, had obtained the bestowment Jade token in the past. The bestowment Jade token they obtained contained 50,000 units of magic power. As for the one Ning Fan had, it contained 100,000 units of magic power. Could it be considered as a special treatment from the Thunder Sovereign? The Sovereign Tomb is located in the Zhou clan of the Internal Sea. It's an enclosed forbidden area without any entrance. The only way to enter is to place a trace of one's soul on the Thunder Jade token and send it into the tomb. As long as you have the Thunder Jade token, you can enter the tomb. It will no matter where you are in the Rain World. If you don't have the Thunder Jade token, you won't be able to enter even if you stand outside the tomb. Currently, my injuries are extremely severe. However, I only need to use a trace of my soul power to send a trace of my soul into the Sovereign Tomb. The matter that Hong Yi wants my help with must be related to the Sovereign Tomb. I can go in and have a look first. Ning Fan turned around and entered the house. He placed the 7 revolution pill box on the ground and sat on the bed with his legs crossed. He held the Thunder Jade token in his hand and closed his eyes, placing a trace of his soul power on the token. Then, he immersed his mind into the token. All of a sudden, the scenery in front of him changed. As if it had crossed countless spaces, a trace of Ning Fan's soul mysteriously appeared in the sovereign tomb of the Zhou clan. The place where he appeared was a horse-herding tribe beyond the Great Wall. He was dressed in white robes. His appearance was exactly the same as his physical body. However, his cultivation base was only at the pitiful first level of the vein-opening realm. It was not because of his injuries. Instead, it was because any cultivator who sent a trace of their soul into the sovereign tomb for the first time would only have a cultivation base of the first level of the vein-opening realm. The true body is very weak, but it's still stronger than my injured and weak body. Ning Fan clenched his fists and looked around. It was surrounded by grasslands, and the snowy mountains could be seen in the distance. There were many herdsmen around. These herdsmen behaved like mortals, but upon closer inspection, they were actually the undead that lived in the sovereign tomb. The tomb of the Thunder Emperor housed countless departed spirits, living eternally in a state that was neither dead nor alive. Ning Fan had once obtained a map of the sovereign tomb from old ancestor Dong Su. It was said that 1/3 of the terrain of the sovereign tomb was recorded on it. The sovereign tomb was divided into 3 regions: the outer region, the central region, and the divine region. Most of the specters living in the outer realms were mortals. There were many undead cultivators in the central region, but they were at most at the soul formation level. As for the divine domain, There was no lack of void refinement realm undead creatures and even void fragmentation realm undead creatures. It was said that the spirit of the Thunder Emperor lived in a strange state in the Emperor's tomb. Ning Fan already knew that Hong Yi was the Thunder Sovereign. However, he did not completely believe in what the Thunder Sovereign said. Perhaps the undead Thunder Emperor really existed in the god's domain, or perhaps it was just a rumor to mislead the world. Ning Fan observed the terrain and fell into deep thought. If he remembered correctly, the herdsman's tribe on the snowy mountains in front of him should be the Snow Lotus tribe in the western region of the Sovereign Tomb. The outer region was extremely vast. In order to travel from the outer region to the central region, one would have to travel at least hundreds of thousands of li. With Ning Fan's current cultivation base at the first level of the vein opening realm, it would be a little difficult for him to enter the central region. Big brother, are you an outsider? Why have I never seen you before? A young lady who was wearing a long robe who was around 13 to 14 years old rode a small red horse and stopped in front of Ning Fan. She skillfully held the reins of the horse and smiled at Ning Fan enthusiastically. The young lady's appearance was not considered beautiful, but she was still delicate and pretty. Her bright eyes revealed intelligence and bravery. Her valiant temperament did not lose out to the daughters of some humble families. I just arrived here. Ning Fan nodded his head. Oh, so it's Big Brother who is just passing by. Why don't you come to our Snow Lotus tribe and have a cup of our specialty lotus wine to warm your body? The young lady got off the horse and invited him enthusiastically. Sure. Ning Fan nodded his head. The purpose of him entering the Sovereign Tomb this time was just to look around. He did not have any special purpose. Thus, he would not reject the young lady's invitation. I am Shi Lian, the daughter of the Snowy Lotus tribe's chief. What is Big Brother's name? The girl smiled sweetly. Ning Fan. When Ning Fan uttered these two words that he had not heard for a long time, he felt relieved. In the past, he had assumed the name of Zhou Ming and Liu Bei. Today, however, he could call himself Ning Fan again. He already had enough strength to move unhindered in the Rain world using his real name. He didn't need to be afraid of anyone plotting against him. He could only step on the corpses of others. Big Brother Ning, you look really good. Shi Lian scrutinized Ning Fan carefully. She felt that he was the most handsome man she had ever seen in her life. Her cheeks involuntarily blushed and her heart thumped wildly. She led Ning Fan's horse all the way into the Snow Lotus tribe. She was as happy as a sparrow. Very good age, the first awakening of love, the prime of youth. Outside the Snow Lotus tribe, there was a tall wooden fence that surrounded the entire tribe. A bonfire was lit in the center, and a few men were standing guard outside the tribe. When Shi Lian was about to lead Ning Fan into the division, a man suddenly blocked her path. Young mistress, please wait. The clan leader has ordered us to discuss important matters in the tribe today. Unrelated people are not allowed to enter the tribe as they please. That man's indifferent gaze swept past Ning Fan with vigilance. Obviously, he was not going to let Ning Fan, a person of unknown origin, into the tribe. Big Brother Ning is a guest who is just passing by. Our Snow Lotus tribe has always been hospitable. Big Brother Ning is my friend. He isn't an unrelated person. His surname is Ning. The man's indifferent eyes suddenly turned cold. Among the tens of tribes around my Snow Lotus tribe, none of them have the Ning family. Only the Ghost Wolf tribe has this surname. This person must be a spy of the tribe. Men, take him down. The atmosphere instantly became tense. Several burly men who were guarding the gates surrounded Ning Fan. These burly men were ordinary undead spirits. They did not have any magic power. They only relied on their martial arts to injure others. Ning Fan's eyes indifferently swept across these burly men. He was not angry at all. Instead, he said with a faint smile, I'm not a member of the Ghost Wolf tribe. Even though he killed people like flies, he would not kill innocent mortals for no reason, even if they were just undead spirits. Why should we believe you? The burly man's expression was still cold, but his tone had softened a little. He had read countless people. From Ning Fan's indifferent eyes, he could faintly tell that this person was not lying. Because I'm an outsider. Ning Fan released a trace of magic power aura force. Even though it was only at the first level of the vein-opening realm, it made the few burly men's faces filled with shock. Immortal Master! You're actually an immortal master. If Ning Fan was an immortal master, of course, it was impossible for him to be a member of the Ghost Wolf tribe because the tribe only consisted of mortals. How could there be an immortal master among them? Besides, an immortal master could annihilate the entire Snow Lotus tribe with just a wave of his hand. Why would he lower himself to disguise as a spy and sneak into the tribe? We're sorry for offending you. The few burly men who were guarding the gate cupped their fists and apologized with respect. At this moment, none of them dared to offend the white-robed young man in front of them anymore. This young man had the strength to flatten the Snow Lotus tribe. Chapter 5:15. There were only a few hundred people living in the Snow Lotus tribe, and all of them were mortal specters without any cultivation base. Ning Fan cast a sidelong glance at the center of the tribe from the corner of his eyes. He could see a huge bonfire burning on a tall wooden frame. Some young herdsmen of the Snow Lotus tribe were slaughtering cows and goats and roasting them near the bonfire. There were also many women in Hu attire dancing around the bonfire. Whether it was a man or a woman, their gazes were as pure as the snow on a snowy mountain. Looking at this scene, Ning Fan suddenly felt a sense of tranquility. The Snow Lotus tribe was a hospitable and peaceful tribe that stood aloof from worldly affairs. It was a good place to stay away from fights, noise, and intrigue. Unfortunately, it did not belong to him. Big Brother Ning, you are actually an immortal master? That was amazing. Do you know how to summon the god of berserkers? Do you know how to summon death soldiers? It was said that there were many immortals in the central region of the Emperor Tomb who could summon barbarian gods and dead soldiers. One immortal could defeat tens of thousands of people. Do you know these immortal techniques? Shi Lian asked with a look of admiration. No. I only know how to kill. Of course, he wouldn't say the second half of the sentence out loud to avoid scaring the young lady. You don't know how to summon the barbarian god and the undead soldiers. What a pity. The girl was a little disappointed. The few burly men who were guarding the entrance of the tribe had already reported Ning Fan's arrival to the patriarch. The chief of the Snow Lotus tribe was a middle-aged man with stubble. His name was Shisa. He was discussing something important with the elders of the tribe. But when he heard that Ning Fan's immortal master had arrived, he immediately turned pale with fright. He didn't dare to be negligent and blew the bugle horn, leading all the warriors and women of the tribe to welcome Ning Fans. We greet immortal Master Ning, Caesar respectfully said. Ning Fan let out a soft sigh. When he had just entered the sovereign tomb, he met Shi Lian by chance. Under her invitation, he wanted to visit the Snow Lotus tribe. However, he did not expect that his arrival would scare this peaceful tribe. He shook his head and consoled her. Everyone, you don't have to worry. I'm just passing by the Snow Lotus tribe. I'll leave after drinking a cup of wine. I definitely won't harm the lives of the people of the Snow Lotus tribe. As soon as he heard that Ning Fan was just passing by the Snow Lotus tribe and would not harm anyone, Patriarch Shisa heaved a sigh of relief. Since immortal Master Ning has passed by our Snow Lotus tribe, you are our guest. Our Snow Lotus tribe may not have much, but we do have a lot of good wine and meat. Roast the fattest beef and mutton and prepare the best lotus wine to welcome great immortal Master Ning. All right. The atmosphere suddenly became lively. Those herdsmen who were afraid of Ning Fan's vein-opening realm now put down their fear and entertained him with good wine and meat. He did not use any of his cultivation base anymore. He did not want to scare these mortal undead spirits. He didn't display any lofty behavior. He was just like an ordinary person, sitting quietly under the bonfire, eating meat and drinking wine while chatting and laughing with the old men of the Snow Lotus tribe. Ning Fan was a cultivator who was experienced and knowledgeable. His way of speaking and his knowledge had won the admiration of countless elderly members of the Snow Lotus tribe. His alcohol tolerance was extraordinary. Many young warriors of the Snow Lotus tribe had a drinking competition with him, but none of them could make him drunk. As long as Ning Fan did not want to get drunk and his heart was not intoxicated, he would not get drunk. His alcohol tolerance had also subdued a young warrior. Occasionally, there were a few enthusiastic women who invited Ning Fan to dance with them. Ning Fan had no choice but to reject them. He did not know how to dance. However, he took a Chang flute from one of the herdsmen and began to play it to accompany those women. The sound of the flute was simple and melodious. That simplicity represented Ning Fan's inner heart. At the same time, the sound of the flute also contained an indelible sound of a powerful army. That was the massacre that Ning Fan had committed in the past that he could not erase in his entire life. His flute had subdued countless young ladies of the Snow Lotus tribe. It also subdued Shi Lian. Many of them cast flirtatious glances at Ning Fan. However, Ning Fan turned a blind eye to them. He just raised his head and looked at the sky that was gradually turning dark. He looked at the moon that rose in the night sky. He put down the Chang flute. After cultivating the Tao for more than 40 years, he felt like he was in a dream, wandering in a foreign land with no one to rely on. All the pursuits of a cultivator were like an illusory dream and an ethereal moon. The sky was already dark, but the bonfire became even brighter. He closed his eyes and listened to the crackling sound of the flames in the bonfire while recalling the past of his life. Fame and fortune were illusory, cultivation base was illusory, power was illusory, beauty was illusory, good and evil were illusory, illusion was illusory, moonlight was illusory. All of these were illusory, but what was illusory? What is void? Ning Fan suddenly opened his eyes and revealed an expression of enlightenment. When he entered the emperor's tomb, he only wanted to explore the emperor's tomb. However, he did not expect that the peaceful scenes of the mortals in the Snow Lotus tribe would arouse his thoughts and enlightenment. And this Tao comprehension was actually the Tao comprehension of the word void. Even though he had unexpectedly broken through to the void inquiry stage in the Star Palace and was already a mid-reckless Devil Realm expert whose strength was comparable to a void inquiry stage expert, he had never thought about the word void in detail. At this moment, the question he was asking himself was, what is void? It was a question that all void glimpse stage cultivators would ask themselves before they advanced to the void glimpse stage. Once one understood what the void was, one could pry into the void. By controlling the meridians of the void, one could ask about the void. Standing in the void ocean, one could reach the void pier stage. Standing above the void, one could reach the great void. Ning Fan suddenly smiled. It seems like I can really comprehend the true meaning of the word void after entering the sovereign tomb this time. Currently, he was just a trace of his separated soul, which was only at the first level of the vein opening realm. However, in the sovereign tomb, it would be a good opportunity for his separated soul to regain the cultivation base of his main body. Just as he was thinking about it, faint sounds of galloping horses could be heard from outside the Snow Lotus tribe. The sounds were mixed with the night breeze. There were at least thousands of cavalrymen who were giving off strong killing intent. The sound of galloping horses was very soft and it was extremely far away. It was difficult for mortals to distinguish it. However, it could not escape Ning Fan's ears. Ning Fan put down the wine pot and let out a soft sigh. It seems like the Snow Lotus tribe has gotten itself into a great calamity. Today, the discussion between Patriarch Shisa and the other members of the tribe is probably related to this calamity. He cupped his fists at Patriarch Shisa and bid farewell. Thank you for giving me the wine, Patriarch Shisa. I have some matters to attend to. I'll take my leave now. Patriarch Shisa was stunned. He did not understand why Ning Fan wanted to leave when he was only half drunk. However, he certainly did not dare to stop Ning Fan from leaving. If Ning Fan wanted to leave, he would immediately send him off with his men. Ning Fan, however, waved his hand. Holding the Chang flute given to him by the Snow Lotus tribe, he quietly disappeared into the night. Shi Lian and many other young ladies of the Snow Lotus tribe looked at Ning Fan's skinny back and sighed faintly. It seemed like their young hearts were stirred. However, it was impossible for Ning Fan to stay for them. He also would not tell them the purpose of his departure. He wanted to go and kill people to eliminate the enemy for the Snow Lotus tribe. He did not want to let the several thousands of cavalrymen massacre the tribe. At the foot of a snowy mountain that was 30 li away from the Snow Lotus tribe, there was a snow river that flowed down from the mountain. On the riverbank, there were nearly 5,000 sturdy cavalrymen who were stationed there. These 5,000 cavalrymen were holding 3 huge banners. They were the Ghost Wolf tribe, the Desolate Wolf tribe, and the Tranquil Wolf tribe. The reason why the 5,000 cavalrymen of the 3 tribes had appeared at this place was only for one purpose: to attack the Snow Lotus tribe that was 30 li away. I heard that the Snow Lotus tribe has a lot of cattle and sheep. Moreover, there are also many women with soft and tender skin. Our 3 tribes will join forces and massacre the Snow Lotus tribe. We will divide those cattle, sheep, women, and slaves among ourselves. What do you think? Alright. When the 3 leaders of the tribes were discussing about the massacre of the Snow Lotus tribe, one of the scouts suddenly noticed a white-robed young man walking towards them under the night sky. A few scouts immediately drew their bows and shot their arrows at the white-robed young man who was suddenly approaching the army. The wind created by the arrows whistled fiercely. However, before the few arrows could get close to the young man, he suddenly flicked his sleeve and all the arrows turned into ashes and dissipated in the air. As for the white-robed young man, he took a step forward and suddenly disappeared from his original spot. How is this possible? Before the scouts could figure out the situation, a bloody hole that was as thick as a thumb suddenly appeared on the forehead of each of them. Their blood splattered across the sky and they fell off their warhorses, dying on the spot. The few scouts actually died in such a strange way. Hiss! The warhorses neighed in fear, alerting the 5,000 cavalrymen of the tribe. Who are you? You have just charged into the army of our 3 tribes and killed our scouts. One of the leaders shouted furiously. Ning Fan appeared in the night and stood in front of the 5,000 cavalrymen of the tribe. Do you all want to attack the Snow Lotus tribe? Ning Fan asked indifferently. So what if we do? Don't tell me you want to stand up for the Snow Lotus tribe and fight against our 5,000 cavalrymen all by yourself? The leader said disdainfully. Ning Fan replied indifferently. With just you? One of the leaders revealed a mocking smile. From his point of view, Ning Fan wanting to fight against the 5,000 cavalrymen all by himself was just a pipe dream. Why do you want to stand up for the Snow Lotus tribe? How many cows, sheep, and beautiful women have the Snow Lotus tribe given you? I will give you double of that. You will help us attack the Snow Lotus tribe. Another leader tried to tempt him cautiously. He had seen the strange way the few scouts died. They were killed by Ning Fan almost in an instant. Judging from that, Ning Fan was indeed brave and had value in recruiting him. Ning Fan did not say anything else. He did not care about the ridicule of others, nor would he be tempted by them. He, Ning Fan, did not need a reason to kill people. Why would he need an explanation? If he must find a reason, then there was only one. He did not kill for wealth and glory but for the kindness of a meal. With a flash, Ning Fan lifted the Chang flute and activated his first-level vein-opening realm magic power. The ordinary Chang flute that was made of oil bamboo became a terrifying killing weapon in Ning Fan's hands. It was even more powerful than a low-grade flying sword. In just an instant, the dozens of cavalrymen at the vanguard were all pierced through their foreheads by the Chang flute and fell off their horses. The 3 leaders of the cavalrymen were shocked. Ning Fan's killing technique of controlling the Chang flute was no longer a mortal's martial technique. It was an immortal technique that could only be seen in the central region. Immortal master. This man is actually an immortal master. He is an immortal master who came from the central region. An immortal master can slaughter 10,000 mortals. Damn it. The Snow Lotus tribe is just a small tribe with only a few hundred people. No matter how many cows and sheep they have, it's impossible for them to invite an immortal master. Why did this immortal master help them? I don't care anymore. This man is alone after all. We have 5,000 cavalrymen with us. Let's fight him to the death. The 3 leaders revealed ferocious expressions. As soon as they blew the horn, 5,000 cavalrymen immediately took their bows and shot arrows at Ning Fan. The arrows were like meteors chasing after the moon, emitting cold glints in the night sky. Ning Fan stared at the 5,000 arrows. His eyes remained unmoved. His figure flashed and disappeared like a ghost. All 5,000 arrows missed their target. The magic technique he used was just a small vein-opening realm magic technique. It was called invisibility. With his first-level vein-opening realm-separated soul, he could only use low-grade magic techniques. It was as if he had returned to the days when he just started cultivating the devil path. To mortals, however, the invisibility technique was already a terrifying ability. Every time the Chang flute attacked, dozens of people would definitely lose their lives. Under the night sky, Ning Fan was the only one who was engaged in a one-sided slaughter. Indeed, he would not use magic power to bully mortals. However, he would not care about the 5,000 cavalrymen who bullied others with their strength. He would just kill them directly. The night sky dispersed and the morning light shone on the snowy mountain. Ning Fan stepped over 5,000 corpses and coldly walked towards the other side of the snowy mountain. In the Snow Lotus tribe, Patriarch she saw was still wearing a worried expression. He had received news that the Ghost Wolf tribe and the other two tribes were going to massacre the Snow Lotus tribe. However, the news seemed to be inaccurate. The Ghost Wolf tribe did not send any cavalry to attack them. What was going on? For 3 consecutive days, the Snow Lotus tribe was still safe and sound. During these 3 days, the herdsmen of the Snow Lotus tribe who went out to investigate discovered a terrifying scene at the foot of the snowy mountain 30 li away. 5,000 cavalrymen were all killed by someone. The killer's method was extremely terrifying. It seemed like he had used some kind of special weapon to pierce through the foreheads of all the cavalrymen, leaving a bloody hole that was as thick as a thumb on their foreheads. Judging from the situation of the battlefield, there was only one killer. It's a killer. He killed 5,000 cavalrymen of the Ghost Wolf tribe and the other 3 tribes all by himself. This is really terrifying. Each of the herdsmen of the Snow Lotus tribe, including Patriarch she saw, was deeply shocked. At the same time, they also felt lucky. After all, the 5,000 cavalrymen were obviously going to attack the Snow Lotus tribe. If it wasn't because of the mysterious killer who killed all of them, they would certainly massacre the entire tribe 3 days ago. It seems like we should thank that mysterious expert. However, I wonder who this expert is. Each of the herdsmen of the Snow Lotus tribe sighed. It's him. It's Big Brother Ning. Shi Lian was the only one who cried tears of joy. She recognized the bloody holes on the foreheads of the corpses. They were caused by the Chang flute that was specially made by the Snow Lotus tribe. Perhaps there was only one person who had the ability to kill 5,000 cavalrymen with an ordinary flute made by the Snow Lotus tribe. Big Brother Ning. The young lady looked into the distance with gratitude and sighed. She thanked him for saving the Snow Lotus tribe, but she did not ask for anything in return. She also sighed because Ning Fan would never come back. This isn't his home. He isn't a returnee. He's just a passerby. Ning Fan crossed the snowy mountain and continued walking for another 3 days. The Thunder Sovereign's tomb was very mysterious. Every time he killed an undead spirit with cultivation base, he would certainly obtain a lightning fruit that was similar to a Dao fruit. The magic power it contained was roughly equivalent to 1% of the medicinal power of an ordinary Dao fruit. Ning Fan had killed 5,000 people, but he did not obtain any lightning fruits. Of course, it was because those people were just mortals. However, during the 3 days he spent crossing the snowy mountain, he discovered dozens of vein-opening realm spiritual beasts in the depths of the mountain. To mortals, these spiritual beasts were extremely terrifying. However, they were not worth mentioning to Ning Fan. These spiritual beasts sneakily attacked Ning Fan. However, they were all killed by him with a wave of his hand, and he obtained more than 20 vein-opening realm lightning fruits. After Ning Fan consumed more than 20 vein-opening realm lightning fruits, the cultivation base of his separated soul broke through to the 5th level of the vein-opening realm in one go. This cultivation base was exactly the same as his cultivation base when he was the young lord of the 7-apricot city in the past. He stood at the other end of the snowy mountain, walking in the night sky. He raised his head and looked at the bright moon in the sky, looking back at the mundane world like smoke. Fifth level of the vein opening realm. His body was healing itself using the black star technique. As for his separated soul, it wanted to continue walking in this sovereign tomb and improve its cultivation base to a higher level. Vein opening realm, harmonious spirit realm, gold core realm, nascent soul realm, divine transformation realm, void refinement realm. Step by step, he wanted to walk on the path of cultivation once again. This path would not take too much time. With his abilities, he only needed a short amount of time to cultivate his separated soul to an extremely high level. It's just that I still haven't figured out, what is void? He looked at the bright moon and felt that the mundane world was getting further and further away from him. What is void? On the fourth day, he walked to the other end of the snowy mountain. It was a small town with a river. On the surface of the lake, boats with black awnings were coming and going. From time to time, there would be young girls waving at Ning Fan, who was standing on the shore. Ning Fan did not say a word. He just stood on the bridge and looked at the flowing water beneath his feet, waiting for the night to fall. Looking at the reflection of the moon in the water, he seemed to have understood something. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. On the 6th day, he looked at the reflection of the moon in the water and threw a cobblestone to scatter the ripples on the surface of the lake. The reflection of the moon was shattered. All of a sudden, he understood everything. Emptiness is the scattered moonlight. Chapter 5:16. He raised his head to look at the moon and then lowered his head to look at the water. The bright moon in the night sky was still bright while the shadow of the moon in the water was shattered along with the ripples. The bright moon above his head did not move at all. Therefore it should be real. The shadow of the moon in the water was broken. Therefore it could only be a shadow and it was fake. The reason why the fake shadow of the moon appeared was because of the bright moon in the sky. What is void? Void is the reflection of truth, and it is born because of truth. This is what I have comprehended in the past few days. After understanding this, my understanding of the word void can be considered to have truly reached the void glimpse stage. However, the ripples on the water gradually calmed down. Ning Fan stood on the bridge and lowered his head to look at the shadow of the moon that was condensed in the water below his feet. He looked at his own reflection in the water. He looked at his own reflection and the reflection was also looking at him. Their eyes met. In just an instant, Ning Fan's mind went blank. He suddenly raised his head, as if he had understood something but he could not see through it. Ning Fan turned his head and looked behind him. The moonlight was bright and the light from the fishing boats shone on his body, leaving a pitch-black shadow on the bridge behind him. The reflection in the water was fake, but the shadow behind him was real. Shadow. True shadow. He calmed himself down and looked at the night scenery of the water village again. However, there was no longer any emotion in his mind. His eyes were only filled with a faint sense of loss. What is void? He asked the question softly again. However, the meaning of the question he asked himself this time was completely different from the first question. For the first time, he asked himself what was void and what was fake. The answer he gave himself was that all the reflections produced by real things were fake. However, when he saw his own reflection in the water, he was at a loss. When he saw the shadow behind him, he became even more confused and asked the second question. The second question was still asking himself what was void. However, it was not about the void but the truth. When Ning Fan's eyes met with the reflection in the water, thousands of thoughts suddenly rose in his mind. When you stand on the bridge and look at the flowing water, the reflection in the water is also looking at you. You think that he is your shadow, but he thinks that you are his shadow. You are thinking whether the reflection is fake or not, and the reflection is also thinking whether you are real or not. You threw a warm goose stone and disturbed the lake water. The lake water rippled and shattered the reflection, so you thought the reflection was fake. But from the angle of the reflection, he also cast a pebble and shattered the water under his feet. In the eyes of the reflection, Is your figure also reflected on the surface of the lake and scattered with the waves? Is that shadow really fake? And the world I'm in, does it really exist? Who is whose reflection? Whose true void is whose? Who's the shadow? Ning Fan stood on the small bridge and looked at the night sky. His heart was filled with mixed feelings. He was gradually unable to distinguish between himself and his reflection. But it was precisely because of this that his comprehension of the void suddenly increased by a large margin. Everyone was born in this world, so they thought that they were objective and real, while their own shadow was fake. This was preconceived notions. But no one had ever thought that they might be the shadow, and that the world on the other side of the mirror or the lake was the real existence. Ning Fan's second question touched upon the comprehension that was too profound. The truth of the Tao truth contained in it was not something he could comprehend with his current strength. Ning Fan did not know that his second question had already touched upon the question of the heavenly Tao, which was definitely not something he could comprehend with his current strength. He recalled the past when he was a disciple of immortal sovereign Zido. In the past, he naturally thought that the world where immortal sovereign Zido was in was a dream, an illusory realm, a fake world that existed in an illusion. Therefore, he also treated the days he lived with his mother and Ji He as a dream. However, now that he thought about it, could it be that the illusory realm where Zido was in was real and the 4 heavens and 9 worlds where he was in was a dream? Ning Fan sighed softly. He could think of these questions, but he could not see through them. He vaguely understood why the cultivators at the first step of Tao cultivation pursued immortality while the cultivators at the second step still pursued the Tao truth even though they had already obtained the immortal lifespan. The cultivators at the first step of Tao cultivation desired immortality. The cultivators at the second step of Tao cultivation desired to obtain the Tao truth. Perhaps this was the only way they could get rid of the fate of becoming a reflection. Void glimpse stage. Seeing the void is the void. Void inquiry stage. Seeing the void isn't the void. Ning Fan muttered to himself. He could not give an answer to the second question. However, his comprehension of the void had truly reached the void inquiry stage because he saw the void wasn't the void. It was unlike the time when he accidentally knocked open the door of the void inquiry stage bottleneck in the Star Palace and gained control of a trace of the void meridian. He did not rely on any fortuitous encounters or any pills that could help him comprehend the void force. He only relied on his eyes and heart to comprehend the void meridian. At this moment, Ning Fan raised his head and looked at the pitch-black night sky. His eyes were so deep that they seemed to be able to tear the space apart and see the void space underneath. Each trace of void force had a unique meridian. By sensing each different meridian, one could control the void force freely. By connecting millions of traces of void force along each different void meridian, one could then condense a void ocean. If one had enough magic power, he could break through and become a void peer stage cultivator the moment he stepped on the void ocean. Void peer stage. At this moment, even though Ning Fan's comprehension of the void had yet to reach the void peer stage, he could already see the path to the void peer stage. As long as he comprehends the void along this path, he would eventually break through to the void peer stage one day. This brother's eyesight is really good. It seems like you have already touched the great Tao of the void peer stage. I am Lu Haoyue from the tree world. May I know how to address you, brother? Unknowingly, a man in green robes with a loose hairpin and long hair appeared behind Ning Fan. His smile was like the spring breeze and his appearance was extraordinary. He cupped his fists at Ning Fan politely. Ning Fan stopped comprehending and his expression changed slightly. He turned around and cupped his fists at the man in green robes. Inwardly, he was quite surprised. He had never thought that he would meet a cultivator from another world in the outer region of the Sovereign Tomb. Moreover, this cultivator was not someone from the Rain world, but a cultivator from another world. Ning Fan from the Rain world. Ning Fan carefully studied the young man in green robes. This young man had also entered the Sovereign Tomb with a trace of his soul. His soul also seemed to be at the vein-opening realm. However, judging from the way he talked, Ning Fan was sure that his true body's cultivation base was at least not lower than the void refinement realm. Moreover, judging from his chi, he was clearly a devil that was formed from a willow tree. Not only could a tree cultivate into a tree demon, but it could also cultivate into a tree devil. This Lu Haoyue was a tree devil. He came from one of the 9 worlds, the tree world. So brother is from the rain world. Nice to meet you. I thought brother Ning is the same as me. Both of you have obtained the Thunder Jade token by chance. That's how you were able to cross the worlds and enter the tomb of the Thunder Sovereign. So Brother Lu's Thunder Jade token was obtained by chance. I wonder why Brother Lu is looking for me? Ning Fan pondered about the other party's intention. When I saw Brother Ning standing on the wooden bridge for a few days, I was actually impressed by you for comprehending the void. Thus, I wanted to befriend you and discuss the Tao with you. To be honest, the reason why I entered the sovereign tomb was also to comprehend the void. Lu Haoyue's smile was polite and respectful. He was a true gentleman. What Tao do you want to discuss? What is the void? Lu Haoyue suddenly asked. His eyes were like bright moons, shining with a strange light. When he asked this question, he raised his head and looked at the night moon with a puzzled expression. Ning Fan understood what Lu Haoyue meant. He knew that Lu Haoyue was asking the question that he had asked himself for the first time. What was the void? The void is the shadow of reality. Because of reality, there is void. Because there is light, there is darkness. Because there is reality, there is void. If I am standing on the surface of a river, the reflection in the river is my void. As for me, I should be the real one. This is the answer that I had pondered for a few days. However, today, I have a different opinion about this answer. Oh? Would you like to hear the details? Lu Haoyue was originally very impressed with Ning Fan's opinion. It was his first time hearing someone comparing the void to the shadow of reality. Even among the void refinement realm experts in the tree world, there were not many people who had such an incisive opinion. However, after hearing that Ning Fan had another opinion, Lu Haoyue immediately pricked up his ears and listened attentively, afraid that he might miss out a single word. The void is the shadow of reality. Reality might not necessarily not be the shadow of the void. It's hard to tell who is whose shadow. At least with my current cultivation realm, I still can't see through it. Brother Lu, look at the flowing water under your feet. Look at your reflection in the water. Are you really sure that you are the real one and it is void? It's really hard to tell who is whose shadow. After listening to Ning Fan's words, Lu Haoyue's mind went blank. He stood there in a daze. Looking at the flowing water under his feet and his reflection, the confusion in his eyes grew. Originally, he had the intention to befriend Ning Fan when he saw him comprehending the void. Even though he raised the question, he did not expect that Ning Fan's answer would be so shocking. Not only did Ning Fan compare the void to the shadow of reality, but he also asserted that it was hard to distinguish between reality and void. It was the first time Lu Haoyue had heard of such a statement in his life. He could not help but think along Ning Fan's line of thought. Could it be that he, Lu Haoyue, was just a shadow and the world reflected in the water was the real world? When he thought of that, Lu Haoyue's heart shuddered. He felt that his understanding of the word void in his entire life was just empty talk. He had never thought that he was actually an illusion. Does such a possibility really exist? Fellow Taoists' insight is unique. Haoyue is ashamed of his inferiority. However, I still have a second question. What is void? Lu Haoyue cupped his fists and asked for the second time. His eyes were filled with genuine respect. When he asked the second question, his eyes were not looking at the bright moon but the flowing water. He knew that the second question he was going to ask was exactly the question that he had been thinking about before. Brother Lu's second question isn't about void but the truth. Does Ning Fan have an answer? Lu Haoyue's eyes were filled with anticipation. He hoped to get another shocking answer from Ning Fan. I'm sorry. I also don't know what is true. However, I was once a disciple of a strong expert. He once said that there is no need to distinguish between reality and illusion in the world. What you see might not necessarily be true and what you hear might not necessarily be false. Reality and void are only separated by a single thought. When Lu Haoyue first heard that Ning Fan did not know the answer to the second question, he sighed. However, after he heard the latter half of Ning Fan's words, his spirit's soul suddenly trembled as if he had been enlightened. He seemed to have understood something. Reality and void are only separated by a single thought. What a good reality and void are only separated by a single thought. Even though Brother Ning did not answer my second question, you gave me a good answer. However, I still have a third question. What is void? When Lu Haoyue asked the third question, he was not looking at the bright moon nor the flowing water. Instead, he was looking at the boundless night sky. His eyes were filled with vicissitudes of life. Ning Fan remained silent. He knew that Lu Haoyue's third question was not about reality or void. It was about the great Tao. Brother Lu, you're too naive. The great Tao is boundless. Even those true immortals have to spend their entire lives exploring it. How would I know the answer? Instead of thinking about the great Tao that is as vague as smoke, why not live in the present? When the sun sets, the path that you and I have walked on will be our Tao. The path that we have walked on is the great Tao. Lu Haoyue's puzzled eyes gradually became clear. When he looked at Ning Fan again, he sighed. Brother Ning's wisdom is outstanding. I admire you for answering 3 questions consecutively. If Brother Ning comes to the tree world in the future, you must visit the Snow Willow Devil Palace. I will certainly welcome you with open arms. This is my spirit sense token. With this token, Brother Ning can enter and exit the Snow Willow Devil Palace at will. No one will stop you. Goodbye. Lu Haoyue cupped his fists respectfully again. Then, with a shake of his body, he sent a wisp of his soul out of the sovereign tomb. Ning Fan looked at Lu Haoyue's departing traveling light and fell into deep thought. He carefully examined the divine knowledge order in his palm. After attaining the harmonious spirit realm, this wisp of his soul was able to fly in the sky and burrow underground. He used the snow-treading art, which he hadn't used for many years. Just like in the past, he traversed the horizon with the Xian steps. He flew high into the sky and headed straight for the central territory, and he alarmed many ferocious beasts that lived in seclusion along the way. Among these ferocious beasts, there were early, mid, late, and even peak harmonious spirit beasts. As long as they were below the gold core realm, none of them could stop Ning Fan's flute from claiming their lives. The flute fell into Ning Fan's hand and turned into a supreme magical treasure. Ning Fan had killed tens of thousands of harmonious spirit beasts along the way, and his cultivation had been rising. Early harmonious spirit, intermediate harmonious spirit, late harmonious spirit, peak harmonious spirit. As he was about to break through to the gold core realm, Ning Fan recalled the bloodbath he had gone through to attain the gold core realm in the past. He thought of Ancestor Fire Cloud's deep love, the humiliation he had suffered in the Great Gene, and the countless battles in the outer endless seas. He recalled the bold words he had said in the past. Don't seek immortality, don't seek to dominate, just seek to correct your reflection. Gold core. His eyes flashed and his aura was released. He had already broken through the gold core realm. It was as if a beam of light had charged into the central region, immediately alarming countless dead souls in the central region. Most of the undead souls in the central region had cultivation levels, and each of them was quite powerful. There were many golden core, nascent soul, and even soul formation cultivators. Every time he went to a region, he would definitely be besieged by the undead spirits of that region. At the same time, he would also slaughter all the undead spirit cultivators of that region. Every time he killed an undead, he would get a thunder fruit. His cultivation base increased step by step, reaching mid-gold core realm, late gold core realm, peak gold core realm. He was once again close to the nascent soul realm. Under the night sky, Ning Fan stepped on a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood and walked out of the valley of dead souls. Looking at the bright moon above his head, he recalled the determination he had when he formed his nascent soul in the past. He recalled the tender feeling he had when he was reluctant to kill Ji He and the heart devil that had troubled him for many years. You are the heart devil that I can't get rid of in my entire life. Nascent soul realm. After consuming countless thunder fruits, Ning Fan's cultivation base broke through to the nascent soul realm at this moment. Even though there were nascent soul realm and divine transformation realm undead spirits in the central region, they did not exist on a large scale. Ning Fan could not advance to the divine transformation realm and void refinement realm through massacres like he did during his previous breakthroughs. He directly flew across the central region and stopped killing. Instead, he flew all the way until he was close to the divine region. He no longer concealed his baleful chi. The undead spirits that he encountered along the way all shivered in fear when they sensed Ning Fan's threatening aura force. None of them dared to attack him anymore. Ning Fan stood outside the divine region and sensed the unusual baleful chi inside. Then he gently halted his footsteps. He did not plan to enter the divine region. If the Thunder Sovereign's undead spirit really existed in the divine region, he would only end up being destroyed if he entered it with a trace of his soul. It had been a few months since he entered the sovereign tomb. The injuries of his true body in the outside world should have almost healed. A trace of his soul entered the sovereign tomb and passed through the central region from the outer region to the periphery of the divine region. His initial goal of exploring the sovereign tomb had basically been achieved. Next, it's time to leave the sovereign tomb. Standing on the peak of the mountain, Ning Fan stared at the dim night sky. His heart was as calm as still water. Whether it was real or fake, he did not care about these things. What he cared about were those people, those matters and those obsessions, returning to the mundane world like smoke, fading the bright moon with a smile. His eyes calmly stared at the trace of moonlight. His current mood was close to the great Tao. Suddenly, he had an urge to pick up those memories and ignite that trace of moonlight. The moonlight was ethereal and hard to find. It was even more impossible to ignite it. However, Ning Fan had a strange feeling. As long as he wants to, he could ignite the moonlight. The journey of comprehending the void was not fruitless. At least, Ning Fan had gained enough insights, and these insights were enough for him to create another magic technique. He stared at the seemingly illusory moonlight. Suddenly, he stood proudly on the peak of the mountain and performed a hand seal with all 10 of his fingers. Perhaps I can create a technique called Void Ignition Technique before I leave. Ning Fan smiled indifferently. If he integrates the insights he gained along the way into this technique, he could ignite the moonlight. Ignite the void. He had yet to realize how terrifying the Dharma spell he had casually created would be. What kind of void fragmentation realm expert would be scared to death by this technique? Outside the giant devil clan, an arrogant gray-robed old man suddenly descended with an imperial order from the Rain Sovereign. I am Yun Daoku. I am here to convey the Rain Sovereign's decree. Where is Zhou Ming? Quickly come out and receive the decree. His voice was not loud, but it contained the aura force of a first heavenly layer void fragmentation realm expert, shocking the entire giant devil clan. His eyes were filled with a hint of coldness. He heard that King Qi Yao, whom he had supported, was killed by Ning Fan. King Qi Yao was supposed to be of some use to him. However, he is now dead. It seems like I have to teach Ning Fan a lesson today. Where is Zhou Ming? Yun Daoku shouted coldly. The wind and snow of the northern cold mountain were dispersed by his shout. The mountains and rivers collapsed. Chapter 517. Ning Fan stood on the peak of the mountain for a long time like a statue. Every day, he waited for the night to come and looked at the faint moonlight. He hadn't been so quiet for a long time. At this moment, he was almost about to enter the state of the union of heaven and man. He wanted to create his own spell to ignite the moonlight. Moonlight exists in the world, so it is real. The moonlight could not be touched, so it was illusory. It was difficult to distinguish between the real and the illusory. Thus, Ning Fan no longer tried to do so. He just activated his magic power and imitated the changes of the moonlight. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. 7 days had passed. On the peak of the mountain in the central region, the sun rose and the moon set. Ning Fan was like a statue from the beginning to the end. Several hundred kilometers around him, there were many ghost cultivators gathered. Each of them harbored ulterior motives. They wanted to eat Ning Fan to improve their cultivation base and magic power, but none of them dared to do so. Among these undead spirits, there was no lack of nascent soul realm and divine transformation realm experts. As for Ning Fan's separated soul, it was just at the early nascent soul realm. Thus, these undead spirits should not be afraid of him. Ning Fan could only blame himself for frightening too many people with his terrifying baleful qi when he crossed the central region. Moreover, at this moment, Ning Fan was standing proudly on the peak of the mountain, comprehending magic techniques. His actions were extremely profound and unfathomable, causing these undead spirits to not dare to act rashly. This person must be a foreign cultivator. As long as we eat him, we will be able to greatly increase our magic power cultivation. However, this person's baleful aura is so terrifying. We might not be able to kill him. I don't know what kind of magic this person is comprehending, but he actually stood there for 7 days. Could it be that this person is creating a nascent soul level spell? It doesn't seem like it. Every time the moon rose, this person would raise his head to look at the moon. Presumably, the spell he created was related to the moon. The sun is the saint, the moon is the emperor, and the stars are the gods and demons. Spells that are related to the sun, moon, and stars are not simple. This person might even be able to create a transcendent level spell. Most of the undead spirits were holding their breaths and hiding nearby cautiously. They did not dare to attack Ning Fan rashly as they were trying to guess his magic technique. Only a small number of nascent soul realm undead spirits were reckless enough to approach Ning Fan stealthily, attempting to launch a sneak attack on him. However, just as these undead spirits were about 10 li away from Ning Fan, all of them were strangely burned into ashes by the rings of black flames. The way they died was extremely horrifying. This scene shocked countless undead spirit cultivators. However, there were always some who refused to believe it and wanted to launch a sneak attack on Ning Fan. Those undead spirit cultivators who sneakily attacked Ning Fan would be incinerated by the fire rings at a distance of 10 li away from him. As the days went by, the range of the fire ring gradually expanded. All the undead spirits that trespassed within 100 li of Ning Fan would be incinerated into ashes. On the 10th day, no one was allowed to stand within 1,000 li of Ning Fan. Anyone who trespasses within 1,000 li of Ning Fan would only end up dead. On the 14th day, no one was allowed to stand within 10,000 li of Ning Fan. All the undead spirits had to flee to that place. Only some divine transformation realm undead spirits were allowed to stand within 10,000 li of the area and watch his self-created magic technique. On the 15th day, Ning Fan opened his eyes and raised his palm. A clump of black devil flames leaped out from the center of his palm. There were countless veins of void power in the devil flames. He looked at the demonic fire in his palm and shook his head. Not enough. The 16th day, the 17th day, Ning Fan remained standing on the peak of the mountain for a whole month. No more undead dared to approach him without permission, and he no longer summoned his demonic flames to burn them. Day after day, he bathed in the moonlight and waited for the night to come. His feet never moved. Some of the more observant divine transformation realm undead spirits noticed that Ning Fan's figure was actually becoming fainter day by day. After just 1 month, his figure had already become so faint that it was almost transparent. They could see the scenery on the other side through Ning Fan. No one knew that Ning Fan was turning his body into the void. No one knew that Ning Fan was comprehending the fire control technique of the void fire realm. The fire control realm was divided into 3 steps, which were the corporeal fire realm, void fire realm, and true fire realm. The fire control technique of ordinary cultivators was at the corporeal fire realm. Only a few void fragmentation realm old monsters could cultivate their fire control technique to the void fire realm. As for the true fire realm, even a true immortal would not be able to cultivate it successfully. However, from Ning Fan's point of view, in order to ignite the illusory moonlight, one would at least need to reach the void fire realm. On the 31st day, Ning Fan suddenly opened his eyes and raised his hand to summon the devil flames. The devil flames immediately turned into a ring of fire that looked both real and illusory at the same time and spread in all directions. When the ring of fire was ignited, it could even burn the space, revealing the dark hollow space below the spatial barrier. In order to ignite the illusory moonlight, the first step is to reach the void fire realm in my fire control technique. The first step has already been completed. As for the second step, I need to borrow some power that is at a higher level than void in order to increase the power of my flames, ignite the moonlight, ignite the void, and ignite everything. At first, Ning Fan wanted to integrate a trace of the power of samsara into this technique. However, after thinking about it carefully, he shook his head and rejected the idea. His understanding of samsara was too shallow. The magic technique he created with the power of samsara would not be able to cause too much damage to high-level cultivators, and it might not be able to ignite the moonlight. He recalled the scenes of slaughter, the scenes of the sea of blood, and the butterfly from his previous life. He suddenly smiled. I know how to ignite the moonlight now. Outside the giant devil clan, a skinny old man arrived in the night sky with a gloomy expression. He held the imperial decree of the rain world's divine sovereign and stood proudly in the sky. His arrival made everyone in the giant devil clan not dare to be negligent. His name was Yun Daoku. He was one of the 4 void fragmentation realm experts of the rain world. He was in charge of the Heavenly Palace, which was one of the 9 great branch palaces. He had always been cautious and timid. He had cultivated for tens of thousands of years, but he had never done anything dangerous that would anger a void fragmentation realm expert at the same level as him. He was inflexible, harsh, and merciless. He especially bore grudges. He secretly supported King Chi Yao, but he did not expect that he would die in Ning Fan's hands. When he thought of King Chi Yao's death, Yun Daoku's eyes flashed with anger. He wished he could immediately teach Ning Fan a lesson. Ning Fan was useful to the Rain Sovereign. Of course, he would not dare to kill him. However, if he just teaches Ning Fan a lesson, the Rain Sovereign would not be angry. Where's Zhou Ming? Yun Daoku spread his spirit sense. He could see everything within 1,000,000 li. He had already found Ning Fan's location. As soon as he sensed that Ning Fan was recuperating in his room, Yun Daoku smiled coldly. I heard that Zhou Ming had consumed a 7th revolution pill during the battle against the giant devil clan. He instantly gained void fragmentation realm strength, which allowed him to crush everything in his path. Initially, I was a little afraid of him. But now, it seems like he has suffered quite a huge backlash from that pill. That's right. How can it be justified if he doesn't suffer from severe backlash after consuming such a heaven-defying pill? His injuries are so severe that I don't even need to teach him a lesson. I only know that if I interrupt his recuperation, he will definitely suffer from an even more severe backlash. Perhaps his Dao foundation will be destroyed and he won't be able to make any progress in his cultivation base for the rest of his life. Yun Daoku smiled grimly. He directly passed through countless passes of the cold northern country. With a single step, he crossed an immeasurable distance and arrived at the provincial city. When he was young, he had suffered from cold poison and fire poison, which left a lingering injury. Thus, he was most afraid of cold and heat. As soon as he arrived at the provincial city, he immediately flicked his sleeves and said, "It's just a snowstorm. Disperse it for me." No one knew what kind of ability he used, but the snowstorm that had never stopped in the cold northern country for tens of thousands of years was stopped by Yun Daoku with a flick of his sleeve. Zhu Qing led some cultivators of the giant devil clan to welcome him. When they saw Yun Daoku's ability to disperse the snowstorm, all of them were greatly shocked. "We, the cultivators of the giant devil clan, greet enlightened Master Daoku." Humph! Yun Daoku did not even look at the people who came to welcome him. With a cold smile, he took a step forward impolitely and vanished without a trace. He went straight to Ning Fan's residence in the provincial city. "This man is really rude." One of the young cultivators of the giant devil clan muttered to himself. At the next moment, the young cultivator suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream and fell to the ground dead. His flesh and blood withered out of thin air, leaving only skin and bones behind. He had turned into a terrifying dried corpse. How dare you talk about me? You must be tired of living. Jiji. With your insignificant cultivation base, if any of you dares to talk nonsense again, I will massacre the entire giant devil clan and make all of you regret it. Without a doubt, the one who killed them was Yun Daoku. However, no one could clearly see how he did it. After hearing Yun Daoku's domineering tone, who would still dare to offend him? He doesn't come with good intentions. I wonder if fellow Taoist Zhou can handle this trouble. Zhu Qing sighed. Yun Daoku directly crossed an immeasurable distance and passed through the layers of defenses, arriving outside Ning Fan's courtyard. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back. Dressed in gray robes, he let out a sinister laugh like a snake and shouted coldly. Zhou Ming, I asked you to come out. Are you deaf? Why aren't you coming out? Yun Daoku's tone was unfriendly. Everyone could tell that he was hostile towards Ning Fan. Some devil guards of the giant devil clan wanted to stop him. However, when they saw Yun Daoku's snake-like cold stare, all of them shuddered and fell to the ground, unable to move at all. Ordinary cultivators did not even have the right to stand in front of a void fragmentation realm expert. This was a true void fragmentation realm expert. Once a void fragmentation realm expert gets angry, millions of corpses would be left behind. Who could stop them? Yu Lingkong and the other women were guarding Ning Fan's courtyard. As soon as they saw Yun Daoku descending upon them with bad intentions, all of their expressions changed drastically. They hurriedly showed themselves and stood in front of Yun Daoku. As for Hong Yi, who was hiding somewhere, as soon as she saw Yun Daoku, she also revealed herself with cold and blood-red eyes. Her eyes actually showed a hint of fear towards Yun Daoku. It's actually Yun Daoku. This Yun Daoku's 3 withering and 3 flourishing technique is extremely powerful. With my cultivation base, which has just recovered to the first fragmentation realm, it won't be easy for me to defeat him. However, Zhou Ming is of great use to me. If this person dares to hurt Zhou Ming in front of me, I will protect Zhou Ming even if I have to suffer severe injuries. Yun Daoku glanced at the women from the corner of his eyes disapprovingly. Even though these women had decent innate talents, the highest cultivation base among them was only at the void inquiry stage. None of them could stop him. Originally, he wanted to bypass the women and directly barge into the inner courtyard to teach Ning Fan a lesson. However, when his gaze fell upon Hong Yi, he suddenly felt a chill down his spine and stopped in his tracks. The cultivation base that Hong Yi revealed was also just at the void glimpse stage. However, Yun Daoku felt a sense of danger from her. Who is this lady? Yun Daoku stared at Hong Yi and went through all the people in his mind that he must never offend. However, no matter how hard he tried, he could not think of any terrifying enemy who was this lady in red robes. He had always been cautious. For the time being, he did not dare to provoke Hong Yi recklessly. However, he had not given up on his plan to teach Ning Fan a lesson. He stood outside Ning Fan's courtyard, coldly staring at the few women, and said in a deep voice, I came with the order of the Rain Sovereign. All of you, quickly ask Zhou Ming to come out and see me. No mistakes are allowed. Big Brother is still recuperating. It's not suitable for him to meet any guests for the time being. Su Qiuling explained with a cold frown. She did not like Yun Daoku's arrogant tone. However, she knew that she must not offend him and make enemies for Ning Fan for no reason. Before she could finish her sentence, Yun Daoku interrupted her impatiently. I won't ask for the reason. No matter what, I came here under the order. Zhou Ming must come out and see me immediately. I don't have time to wait for him. After I pass the Rain Sovereign's order, I still need to return to the Withering Glory Valley and continue studying my Void Spirit technique. How can I waste my time here? I'm only going to count to 3. If this Zhou Ming still doesn't show himself, I will barge in by force. I don't think any of you juniors can stop me. What? You can't barge in by force? Su Qiuling looked anxious. She was afraid that Yun Daoku would disturb Ning Fan's recuperation by barging into the courtyard. Yun Daoku ignored all of the women's anxiousness. He just counted indifferently. 1, 2, 3. Yun Daoku's expression was domineering and cold. He did not show any respect to anyone. After he finished counting to 3 breaths, he took a huge step forward and directly barged into Ning Fan's courtyard. He raised his hand and sent out a gust of strong wind towards the house where Ning Fan was. Judging from his posture, he was going to flatten Ning Fan along with his courtyard. Even though it was just a casual attack from Yun Daoku, it was much stronger than an ordinary Void Pierce stage attack. All the women were shocked. Even if Ning Fan was at his peak condition, it would be difficult for him to block such a terrifying attack, let alone when he was injured. This Yun Daoku is really vicious. He clearly wants to harm Ning Fan while he is injured and aggravate his injuries. Hong Yi's blood-red eyes flashed with a hint of coldness. The moment Yun Daoku stepped into Ning Fan's courtyard, she had already decided to block his attack and teach him an unforgettable lesson. She would not watch Yun Daoku hurt Ning Fan without doing anything. Unexpectedly, before Hong Yi could make her move, an extremely terrifying magic technique aura force suddenly engulfed the entire cold northern country. That aura force spread out from Ning Fan's room and swept towards Yun Daoku, shocking everyone. A strange black ring of fire flashed and the entire courtyard was burnt to ashes. Not even a piece of debris was left behind. The ring of fire was still spreading. The earth was burnt to ashes, the mountains and rivers were burnt to ashes, the wind and snow were burnt to ashes. Everything that stood in the way of the ring of fire was gone. In the wind and snow, Ning Fan stood quietly on the ruins of his courtyard. Under his feet was a gigantic formation diagram made of black flames. The formation diagram was burning with black flames that seemed to be real yet illusory. The terrifying firepower made the entire space sizzle. Ning Fan stood on the Black Sea Grand Formation like an emperor of fire. His figure suddenly became extremely faint as if he was about to vanish from this world. Countless butterflies that were formed from black flames appeared around him. His eyes were still closed. His separated soul was still comprehending magic techniques in the Sovereign Tomb. His physical body merely sensed danger and moved instinctively, displaying the void ignition technique that he had just comprehended. Ning Fan did not know that he was facing a void fragmentation realm expert at all. He just gently raised his finger and pointed at Yun Daoku. His black hair suddenly danced wildly and his devil chi was monstrous. The strength of the devil chi in that finger was absolutely unparalleled among those below the void fragmentation realm. As he pointed his finger, the black sea of flames under his feet suddenly turned into millions of black butterflies. The millions of butterflies merged into one and turned into a 10,000 zhang humongous black fiery butterfly that flew proudly in the night sky. Both of the fiery butterfly's wings were shining with a black halo. That black halo was actually the shadow of the heavenly Tao ring. Butterfly move, void ignition. Ning Fan said indifferently. All of a sudden, the gigantic butterfly flapped its wings. There was no sea of flames, but everything that stood in its way was turned into ashes without exception. Be it the mountains, rivers, the pitch-black night sky, or even the moonlight that filled the sky. Yuling Kong covered her mouth in shock. She cultivated the power of moonlight, but she had never seen any magic technique that could burn the moonlight. Hong Yi's blood-red eyes were filled with astonishment. Her gaze fell upon the gigantic butterfly. She could not believe that Ning Fan could display such a powerful magic technique. As for Yun Daoku, his old face, which was unmoved by anything in the world, revealed a panicked expression for the first time. When the gigantic black fiery butterfly aimed its wings at Yun Daoku, it suddenly flapped its wings. All of a sudden, Yun Daoku, who was a dignified void fragmentation realm expert, let out a miserable shriek. Hong Yi realized that the situation was not good. She had already brought her women and the other cultivators of the giant devil clan to 10,000 li away. Yun Daoku was the only one who was within the attack range of the gigantic butterfly and could not escape. The night sky was burned and the moonlight was extinguished. There were no flames burning within 10,000 li where Yun Daoku was standing. However, everything was burned into ashes. Yun Daoku, who was a dignified void fragmentation realm cultivator whose physical body was even stronger than a body cultivator at the 4th level of the golden body refining realm, was ignited by the black flames without any warning. The burning made him feel unbearable pain and his injuries gradually worsened. What Yun Daoku did not expect the most was that his primordial spirit, which had already turned illusory, was actually ignited by the black flames. It burned crazily and almost turned into ashes. He used all of his magic power to try and extinguish the strange black flames. However, he realized that the black flames were actually void flames. They could not be extinguished with ordinary methods at all. He was not good at dealing with ice and fire divine abilities in the first place. Now that he was attacked by the gigantic black fiery butterfly, it nearly scared him to death. When the black butterfly flapped its wings for the first time, Yun Daoku coughed out blood and took 3 steps back. When the black butterfly flapped its wings for the second time, Yun Daoku took 10 steps back while coughing out blood. When the black butterfly flapped its wings for the 3rd time, Yun Daoku took 50 steps back and could no longer stand steadily. He actually could not withstand a single move of Ning Fan's magic technique. If Ning Fan did not stop the magic technique and the gigantic butterfly flapped its wings for more than 10 times, he might even die in Ning Fan's hands. How is this possible? How is this possible? A void fragmentation realm expert was actually about to die in Ning Fan's hands. Moreover, Ning Fan was still in a state of deep sleep and he was just instinctively using a magic technique. I'm immortal technique. Even though this technique isn't an immortal technique, it is extremely close to it. It can even ignite my primordial spirit, which has turned illusory. It's too scary. It's really too scary. A mere void inquiry stage cultivator can actually use an immortal technique. Who would dare to provoke such a void inquiry stage expert? All of a sudden, Yun Daoku was filled with fear and regret. Yun Daoku only thought that Ning Fan used an immortal technique to take revenge on him for attacking Ning Fan's courtyard earlier. Seeing that the gigantic black fiery butterfly was about to flap its wings for the 4th time, Yun Daoku forcefully swallowed a mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with madness. No matter what, he, Yun Daoku, must not die here under this terrifying immortal technique. Even if his physical body is destroyed, even if only his primordial spirit can escape, he must preserve his life. Not good. This Yun Daoku is going to detonate his primordial spirit. Hong Yi's eyes were filled with astonishment. She could not imagine how Ning Fan could use such a powerful immortal technique which forced a void fragmentation realm expert to detonate his physical body. Just as Yun Daoku was about to commit suicide, Ning Fan suddenly spurted out a mouthful of blood and woke up. As he withdrew his magic power, the gigantic black fiery butterfly in the sky and the formation diagram of the sea of flames beneath his feet dissipated. The grade of this void ignition technique seems to be a little too high. Unless my cultivation base is a little higher, I won't be able to completely control this technique. If I use this technique rashly, I will either vomit blood due to the backlash or lose control of this technique. Even I will be killed. Senior, why are you vomiting blood in my courtyard? By the way, where's my courtyard? Ning Fan's eyes were filled with confusion. Looking at Yun Daoku, who was wearing a terrified expression, he felt extremely puzzled. Could it be that he had done something terrifying when he was unconscious? Otherwise, why would this void fragmentation realm expert be so afraid of him? Why were the mountains, rivers, and houses in the surroundings burned to ashes? May I know who you are, Senior? What brings you to the Giant Devil Clan? Is there something you need from me? Even though Ning Fan did not recognize Yun Daoku, he could sense his void fragmentation realm chi. Therefore, he was still very polite to him. Unexpectedly, just as Ning Fan took a step closer to Yun Daoku, the latter hurriedly took a few steps back as if he was avoiding a plague. He kept a distance from Ning Fan as if he was afraid that Ning Fan would come closer to him. Stay away from me. Don't come near me. Don't ever come near me. Fellow Taoist, let's talk this out. I'm a subordinate of the Rain Sovereign. You can't kill me. Yun Daoku was still in extreme fear. He was not courageous in the first place. He had been cautious all his life and had lived a leisurely life as a void fragmentation realm old ancestor for so many years. Who would have thought that he would almost die in Ning Fan's hands today? It really scared him to death. Let's not talk about avenging King Chi Yao. Even if Ning Fan killed his own father, he would not dare to take revenge. Even if he was given 10 times more courage, he would not dare to provoke Ning Fan. Ning Fan was too scary. Too scary. An immortal technique nearly killed him instantly. He was a dignified void fragmentation realm expert, but he almost died in the cold northern country without knowing why. Ning Fan's mind raced. He looked at the ruins of the battle and then looked at Su Yen, Su Qiuling and the other women who kept giving him meaningful looks. Then he vaguely had a guess. Could it be that when I was unconscious, I accidentally used the void ignition technique and severely injured this void fragmentation realm expert? Pu Ming Ke was the first to laugh. Her brother Biscuit was really talented. He could still use magic techniques when he was unconscious and even beat Yun Daoku half to death with that magic technique. No one would believe this even if she told them about it. If you're fine, I'm leaving. His name is Yun Daoku. He even tried to hurt you just now. You don't have to be polite to him. Hong Yi said coldly and turned around, disappearing into the wind and snow. As soon as he heard Hong Yi's words, Ning Fan's gaze towards Yun Daoku began to carry a hint of coldness. So it's fellow Taoist Yun. I apologize for my rudeness. As one of the 4 great void fragmentation realm experts of the Rain World, fellow Taoist is a world-renowned expert. I wonder what brings you to a remote place like my giant devil clan. After being stared at by Ning Fan's cold eyes, Yun Daoku felt a chill down his spine. He immediately smiled apologetically. Fellow Taoist can even use an immortal technique. How would I dare to give you any advice? It's just a misunderstanding. All of them are just misunderstandings. The reason why I came to the Giant Devil Clan is because of the Rain Sovereign's order to grant fellow Taoist the title of a noble. I wonder if fellow Taoist wants to obtain the title of King Ming or Marquis White Robe. King Ming? Marquis White Robe? Ning Fan was slightly surprised. I'm going to obtain the title of a noble? Chapter 518. Ning Fan did not give an immediate answer. To him, whether it was Wisdom King or Marquis White Robe, they were just titles. It didn't matter which one he chose. However, when he thought about it carefully, the Rain Sovereign purposely sent a void fragmentation realm expert to bestow him with a title. It seemed like he was making a mountain out of a molehill. There must be some deep meaning between these 2 titles. King Ming, Marquis White Robe. I see. There was nothing wrong with these 2 titles. The only difference was the difference between the 2 titles, King and Marquis. In the mortal world, the king was the ruler and the marquis was the minister. In the cultivation world, even though it was not so particular, the Rain Sovereign had purposely sent someone to bestow Ning Fan with a title and let him choose between the royal nobles. Thus, Ning Fan could not help but think about it further. When he thought of the Rain Sovereign's character, Ning Fan vaguely guessed that the Rain Sovereign was testing him with his title. It was also Ning Fan's fault for being too high profile while cultivating the Devil Path. It was inevitable for him to arouse the Rain Sovereign's suspicion. The Rain Sovereign was worried whether Ning Fan would become the next Yun Tianjue or Thunder Sovereign Buzhou. He was worried whether Ning Fan would break free from his control and become the next sovereign of the Rain World, usurping it. Ning Fan was quite confident that if he chooses the title of King Ming, the Rain Sovereign would suspect him of having wild ambitions. Then, the Rain Sovereign would suppress and kill him. The Rain Sovereign's vision is too narrow. It's just a mere position of the Rain World's divine emperor. What's there to fight for? Ning Fan's heart was filled with disdain. His ambition was not in the Rain World but in the 4 heavens. He did not have the intention to fight for power with the Rain Sovereign at all. If he became enemies with the Rain Emperor one day, it would definitely not be for the sake of a power struggle, but for some other reason. After seeing through the Rain Sovereign's thoughts, even though Ning Fan disdained the Rain Sovereign's character, He would not choose the title of King Ming anymore as it would only make the Rain Sovereign suspicious. Currently, his biggest enemy was Moksha, sovereign of the Devil World. There was absolutely no need for him to provoke a groundless calamity just for a title. Moreover, he did not like the title of King Ming at all. Zhou Ming was only his pseudonym, so he was naturally unwilling to be called Wisdom King. Even if he were to be conferred the title of king, he should be conferred the title of King Ning, shouldn't he? After making up his mind, Ning Fan said to Yun Daogu with an indifferent tone, "The Rain Sovereign really thinks highly of me. He actually sent a void fragmentation realm expert to bestow me with a title. I'm really flattered. By the way, which title does fellow Taoist Yun think is better for me?" Cough cough cough. It's fellow Taoist Zhou's choice of title. This old man doesn't dare to interfere, Yun Daoku said with a dry smile. Does that so? Then I choose Marquis White Robe, Ning Fan said in a seemingly casual manner. Marquis White Robe? Fellow Taoist, are you really going to choose Marquis White Robe? Yun Daoku was a little excited, a little relieved. Fortunately, Ning Fan chose the title of Marquis White Robe. If Ning Fan chooses the title of Ming King, Yun Daoku would have to obey the Rain Sovereign's order and, secretly, plant a sinful imprint on Ning Fan to suppress the growth of his cultivation base. Just like how the Rain Sovereign personally sealed Yun Tianjue's cultivation base in the past, he sealed Ning Fan once again. Originally, Yun Daoku held a grudge against Ning Fan. He really hoped that Ning Fan would choose the title of Ming King and then plant a sinful imprint on Ning Fan. Now, however, Yun Daoku was already terrified by Ning Fan's void ignition technique. How would he still dare to plant a sinful imprint on Ning Fan? If the sinful imprint fails and Ning Fan uses another immortal technique to instantly kill him, then he, Yun Daoku, would really die in vain. Fortunately, this young man chose the title of Marquis White Robe. In this case, I don't need to fight him anymore. This is great. This is great. Ning Fan noticed the subtle expressions on Yun Daoku's face and sneered inwardly. The choice of this title is indeed filled with evil intentions. Since fellow Taoist has chosen the title of Marquis White Robe, then I have to announce another order from the Cloud Sovereign. Congratulations, fellow Taoist Zhou. The Rain Sovereign has already conferred you as one of the 9 Palace Lords of the Rain Palace. You will be in charge of the Scarlet Heaven Palace and obey the orders of the 7th Prince. The token of the Scarlet Heaven Palace Lord and the reward for being conferred the title of Marquis are all in this storage pouch. Fellow Taoist, please kindly accept them. Yun Daoku smiled apologetically. At the same time, he took out a white storage pouch that was weaved from the threads of rain and dew and passed it to Ning Fan. The quality of this storage pouch was extremely high. Even if it receives a void refinement realm attack, it might not break. The rewards inside must be precious items. Ning Fan received the storage pouch and kept it directly. He did not even check the contents in front of Yun Daoku and said coldly, "Fellow Taoist Yun, is there anything else?" His intention to send the guest away was already obvious. Nothing. I have something else to do. I won't stay any longer. I'll leave now. Marquis White Robe, please stay. You don't have to send me off. Yun Daoku could not help but smile apologetically. He was eager to leave the giant devil clan, a place where he would get into trouble as soon as possible. He was a dignified void fragmentation realm expert. When had he ever lowered his voice to anyone? However, he was really scared out of his wits by Ning Fan today. That void ignition technique would forever be a nightmare in Yun Daoku's heart. He would never be able to erase it. Yun Daoku politely cupped his fists at Ning Fan. Then he turned around and was about to leave, but Ning Fan stopped him. Fellow Taoist, please wait. Thud at Yun Daoku's heart skipped a beat. He cursed his bad luck inwardly. He did not know why Ning Fan stopped him. He was a little afraid, but he did not dare to show any dissatisfaction on his face. He forced a smile and said, "Marquis White Robe, do you have any other orders? Please tell me clearly. I will do whatever you say as long as it's within my capabilities." Fellow Taoist, you don't have to be nervous. I just wanted to tell you one thing. Ning Fan was obviously smiling, but Yun Daoku felt a chill. What is it? Actually, my real name isn't Zhou Ming but Ning Fan. Please tell the Rain Sovereign that I like the title Marquis White Robe very much. I've been living a carefree life all my life and I'm not used to being an emperor or a sovereign. However, if I'm forced into a desperate situation, I can't guarantee that I won't do anything crazy. If the Rain World doesn't betray me, I won't betray the Rain World. My ambition isn't in the Rain World. When Ning Fan's words entered Yun Daoku's ears, it was like a sudden clap of thunder, deeply shocking him. Yun Daoku was not surprised by Ning Fan's real name. To cultivators, a name was just a form of address. Who didn't have a few aliases? What shocked Yun Daoku was Ning Fan's tone and expression. Ning Fan's words seemed to be illogical. However, Yun Daoku understood that Ning Fan was laying his cards on the table to the Rain Sovereign. His ambition wasn't in the Rain World. He was not greedy for the position of a void fragmentation realm sovereign being at all. There was a crazed obsession in his words. This obsession could turn anyone who stood in his way into ashes. At this moment, Yun Daoku actually felt a sense of danger from Ning Fan once again. Even if he was a first heavenly layer void fragmentation realm expert, once he becomes Ning Fan's enemy, he would die without a burial place. You can leave now. Ning Fan flicked his sleeves to send him off. Yun Daoku suddenly snapped back to his senses. He cupped his fists repeatedly and left in a hurry. The moment he turned around and left, Yun Daoku clenched his teeth and swore that he would never offend Ning Fan again in his entire life. Even though Ning Fan's current cultivation base was still lower than Yun Daoku's, he did not dare to underestimate him. Yun Daoku had a strong feeling that Ning Fan would grow to a point where he could only look up to him one day. Hiss! All of the giant demon clan cultivators were dumbfounded. What did they just see? A dignified void fragmentation realm expert, enlightened being Daoku, actually apologized to Ning Fan with a smile and was actually under Ning Fan's command. As for the others, when they heard that Ning Fan had been conferred the title of Marquis White Robe and Scarlet Heaven Palace Lord by the Rain Sovereign, each and every one of them was overjoyed. This was truly a joyous occasion. They had to celebrate it properly. Big Brother Biscuit, you're so cool. What kind of magic did you use earlier? Could it be an immortal art? You actually scared that Yun Daoku to such an extent. Teach me, I want to learn too. Ming Kei happily jumped into Ning Fan's arms and looked at him pleadingly. A single magic technique was able to frighten a void fragmentation realm expert. This magic technique is really too powerful. I must learn it. You can't learn it. Ning Fan patted Ming Kei's head and scanned the ruins within 10,000 li with his eyes. His face was filled with satisfaction. Most of these ruins were created by the void ignition technique, so its power should be very good. This time, the void ignition technique that Ning Fan created was a type of void flame level fire control technique. Ning Fan did not integrate the power of samsara into this magic technique. Instead, he integrated another type of power into it. Obsession, or perhaps food. Ning Fan integrated the determination to ignite the moonlight into the magic technique, causing the void ignition technique to almost reach the level of an immortal art. Without that crazy determination, the destructive power of this technique would at most be equivalent to the mortal void realm. The destructive power of the void ignition technique was indeed very terrifying. However, Ning Fan helplessly realized that his current cultivation base was completely insufficient to use this technique as he wished. The grade of the magic technique was too high and Ning Fan's cultivation base was not enough. If he forcefully uses it, he would either be injured by the backlash or lose control of the magic technique. The black flame butterfly that he summoned would destroy both him and his enemies. Ning Fan could only make the black flame butterfly flap its wings 3 times at most. It was impossible for him to flap it a 4th time. The destructive power of the butterfly's wings thrice could scare Yun Daoku, but it definitely could not kill him. With Ning Fan's current cultivation base, he would not be able to kill a void fragmentation realm expert no matter what. It was funny that Yun Daoku was too timid. He did not know that Ning Fan had yet to completely master this technique. I can keep the void ignition technique as my trump card. I shouldn't use it unless I have no other choice, unless my cultivation base reaches a higher level. Ning Fan looked inside his body. During the few months when his separated soul entered the sovereign tomb, his body had already recovered by 70 to 80% with the help of the Black Star technique. Currently, Ning Fan only needed to consume the 7 revolutions life-returning pill that the Thunder Sovereign gave him, and his injuries would be completely healed. Once his injuries are fully healed and he handles some trivial matters, he could then leave. Big brother, don't you need to explain to my sisters why your real name is Ning Fan? Su Qiuling reminded him. It's time for me to explain it properly. All of this has to start from a low-grade cultivation country. It's a very long story. Ning Fan smiled faintly. He reached out his hand and grabbed at the wind and snow. Countless ice and snow condensed into houses, snow mountains and ice rivers. In an instant, the ruins within 10,000 li were rebuilt by Ning Fan's magic technique. However, the style of the houses and the terrain of the mountains and rivers were not the original terrain of the giant devil clan. Instead, they were the mountains and rivers of Wu country and Yu country. The mountains and rivers had long been engraved in Ning Fan's heart. Let's talk inside. In just half a month, the name of an unknown cultivator had spread across the Rain world. Marquis White Robe. Ning Fan. Scarlet Heaven Palace Lord. Ning Fan. Even though the name was unfamiliar, no one dared to underestimate this Marquis White Robe who was newly conferred by the Rain Sovereign. It was because this Marquis White Robe was none other than revered Ming Zhou Ming, who made countless experts of the Rain world tremble with fear upon hearing his name. Countless cultivators began to spread a song crazily, reminding the low-grade cultivators in their sects not to provoke this Marquis White Robe. After those cultivators who survived the Battle of 100 Sects returned to the 800 cultivation countries, they spread Ning Fan's terrifying devil name everywhere. The Scarlet Heaven Palace Lord, slaughtering 100 sects with blood. When White Robe appears, the world will be covered in white mourning dress. It was obviously an elegant title. However, when it fell on Ning Fan's head, it became filled with dense killing intent. It almost had the miraculous effect of stopping a child from crying. In the Rain Palace of the Middle State, a few palace lords of the Rain Palace's branches said to the elderly man sitting on the throne unwillingly, "Your Majesty Rain Sovereign, that Ning Fan is a devil cultivator who has killed countless people. It's fine if you confer him the title of a marquis, but how can you confer him the title of the Scarlet Heaven Palace Lord? If this person comes to the Middle State in the future, won't he be on equal footing with the cultivators of our profound gate? Your Majesty Rain Sovereign, this person was rude to you. How dare he say something like, if the Rain world doesn't betray me, I won't betray the Rain world. This young man must be punished with a small punishment. Your Majesty Rain Sovereign." Each of the palace lords' dissatisfaction was directed at Ning Fan. The Rain Sovereign did not pay attention to their complaints and remained silent. His ears were still echoing with Ning Fan's words that Yun Daoku had reported to him. If the Rain world doesn't betray me, I won't betray the Rain world. My ambition is not in the Rain world. The Rain Sovereign's expression was filled with uncertainty. He muttered to himself, "This young man doesn't seem to have the intention to usurp the throne. However, the human heart is unpredictable. However, this young man still has a great use." The Rain Sovereign's eyes gradually darkened. No one knew what he was thinking about. In a country at the border of the 800 cultivation countries, a white-robed, middle-aged sword cultivator with one arm was walking alone in a cultivation city. He was Yun Tianjue. He had just returned from a certain historical site. Originally, he found a fragment of the immortal extermination sword, but it was destroyed by the guardian void beast. It made him very unhappy. Whoever provokes Yun Tianjue who was unhappy would die. All of a sudden, Yun Tianjue stopped outside an inn and listened to the conversation inside with slight interest. Have you heard? That revered Ming's real name is Ning Fan. Now, he has been conferred the title of the Scarlet Heaven Palace Lord of the Rain Palace and obtained the title of Marquis White Robe. The Scarlet Heaven Palace Lord massacred 100 sections. Once white robe appears, the world will be covered in white mourning dress. This marquee white robe must never be provoked. This Ning Fan even dares to threaten the Rain Sovereign. All of a sudden, Yun Tianjue's cold brows relaxed slightly. His mood actually became a little better. So his name is Ning Fan. Ning Fan. In the Ning clan in Hai Ning of Wu country, a young lady in green robes was cultivating in the mountain. Suddenly, a servant hurriedly reported to her from outside the stone door. "Miss Qing, I've found Ning Fan's whereabouts. Have you found him?" Ning Qingqing stopped circulating her qi. Her face was cold and emotionless. However, there was a hint of joy hidden deep in her eyes. "Have I finally found him? Look, Miss Qing. These are all the information about Marquis White Robe, Ning Fan." The servant passed all the information she had collected to Ning Qingqing. Ning Qingqing ran out of the stone door and received the jade slips expectantly. However, when she scanned through the information, her face was filled with disappointment. "It's not him. This isn't him as well. In the past, he was just a mortal. How could he be a void refinement realm cultivator?" Ning Qingqing sighed faintly. Her eyes were filled with disappointment. Will I never be able to repay the kindness he showed me in the past? In 7 Apricot City in Yu Country, a young lady who looked like she was 16 or 17 years old was flying a kite in the snow alone. She was wearing a snow-white fox fur coat. Her facial features were plain and clean. She was missing someone. All of a sudden, a servant hurriedly ran towards her while holding a piece of information. "City Lord Jiha, we have the information about young master." "Is there more information about Brother Fan?" The young lady's heart suddenly skipped a beat. She threw the kite away and took the jade slip. After reading the content, her eyes curved into a crescent smile. However, it turned into sadness. "Brother Fan, can you come back before I form my core? I don't want to forget you. I can't bear to cut off my heart devil because it's you." That silly little girl in the past was actually close to forming her core and had even become the city lord of 7 Apricot City and Ning City. She was waiting for Ning Fan's return in her hometown. Waiting for the sound of the wind chimes of Ling Lan to come back, no matter how many years she has to wait. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.